What's up, everybody? Who's ready for some Charlotte Checkers hockey, huh? Man, I'm pumped. Team is on the road in Cleveland. I'm getting the game pulled up right now here on Flow Sports. Make sure you do the same now.
Everybody, who's ready for some
I,
Charlotte Checkers
I know that
hockey,
it's
huh?
one of those things where.
Team is on the
Oh,
road
I got a
in
little bit of an
Cleveland.
echo.
I'm getting the game pulled up right now here on Flow Sports. Make sure you do the same.
All right. And what I got to do is just mute here. Should be set. Let's get logged back in. Y'all got me out there? Should have me by now. Woohoo! All right. Got the A-OK. Burberry Gary giving me the good heads up. Thanks, guys. So what happened was I was hearing an echo, and I changed my audio settings, but what I didn't realize was the echo was because I also had my Facebook window open. So I was basically just hearing my own stream, the same stream that y'all were hearing. So it wasn't an echo from settings. It was just I had too much going on. In the meantime, let me get logged in here. What do you guys think final score here tonight? Anne-Marie's in here in the chat. Toby from Riverside Arena. Thanks, man, for tuning in. Austin Bruins, the team that I used to work with. Toby's an up and comer in the high school world, and he's interested in broadcasting. I chatted with him last night for a little while about his skill set and what he wants to do. Toby, thanks for joining us. Anne-Marie, as always, thank you so much. All right, we got Ed saying 4-1 final, Anne-Marie saying 3-2 final. So we got two very different stories there. I'm assuming you both meant that the Checkers were going to win, but we've got Ed's thinking that's going to be a 3-goal difference. Anne-Marie a little bit tighter, going 3-2. I think it's going to be tighter as well. Let's see. I'm not ignoring y'all. I'm on the Roku device, and they don't make this easy. Does Roku at all for putting in passwords, having to do everything individually on the keypad here. This is why I jumped on 10 minutes early. I knew there was going to be a couple of bumps and a couple of stumbles because it's the first time we're doing this. I literally threw everything together the last time for Four Nations. Just, I didn't, we practice, right? Just throw it up there, just go have at it. So that's kind of what we did. This time, a little bit more work into it. But at the end of the day, still, this isn't going to be a very heavy stream. I want this to be relaxed. I want this to be fun for y'all. I want to have fun, and I think this is kind of the best way to do that, to be honest with you. So let me make sure that I'm logged in here. Let's hope I punch my password in right. Otherwise, I got to go through all that clicking again. All right, we're in. We are in. No. Come on, Jacob. You can't do that. You cannot say that at all. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Thinking the Checkers are going to lose. I don't like that one bit. I do not like that one bit. All right, so we're thinking we've got ourselves a 4-3 final. A 3-2 final. We've got ourselves a 4-1 final. Who do we think are going to be the big heroes tonight? I don't know if you guys saw the lines. I wrote them down here just a little bit ago, but it looks like C.J. Smith, Kyle Criscola, Patrick Giles. That's your top line tonight. And when I say top line, if anything proves that Hippeneer does not believe in lines 1, 2, and 3, just wait until you hear the third line for this team. Second line is going to be Leonard on the left wing with Asplund in the middle and then Puljujarvi on the right side. And then your third line, again, this proves how much he does not believe in 1, 2, and 3. There's no hierarchy here. Skoog on the left wing with Sordiff at center and Will Lockwood on the right. I mean, Sordiff, Lockwood, Skoog have been having a great run, a good 2025. They would not be what you would call a third line group. So maybe that just speaks to how deep the Charlotte Checkers are. But with all the injuries and Sandis Vilmanis getting injured in the last homestand, there's been some shuffling. But that's kind of what the third line looks like. Fourth line is going to be Ben Steeves out there with Oliver Okuliar and Riley Bezo getting into the game here tonight. So maybe a little bit of physicality expected from the coaching staff to throw in Riley. He hasn't had a lot of games so far this year, but we know he can play at this level. I'm excited to see what he does here tonight. On defense, it's Bjornfoot and Kierstead. They're going to go Megna and Benning as your second pair, and then your third pair is going to be Hovorka with Trevor Carrick, who is back in the lineup after giving birth to his baby girl. Again, a big congratulations to the Carricks on their first little Camille, who was born last week. I believe it was last Saturday. So little one, not even a week old yet. Maybe exactly a week old. I'm not 100% sure on the date of birth, but welcome to the Checkers family, Camille. Chris Drieger in goal. I'm excited to see this. This is a Monsters team. They can be high flying. When you talk about guys like Trey Wolansky, he's deadly. This is a team that I'm excited to see the Checkers go up against. I know they faced them once before, but the last time these two teams met was back October 18th and 19th. Those were the first two home games of the regular season at Bojangles Coliseum. These two teams are wildly different now as we're pretty much in March at this point. So this is going to be as close to the first time the Checkers have seen a team that you're going to get here in this up-and-coming run. I think the next time that we'll see that is maybe with Providence, because we have not played Providence a lot, only a couple of times so far, and even those games have been a little ways back. So that's going to be there's going to be a big feeling out process. I'm curious to see what we see here tonight with the Monsters going there. How many penalties Riley tonight? We'll see. We'll see, right? I mean, he's not even close to the penalty minute leader on the team, and of course, he doesn't get in as many games. I believe Oliver Okuliar still has that distinction for the most penalty minutes on the team. So we'll see how that goes. He's been rather clean. I mean, the team themselves have been rather clean. They only gave up 3 power plays to Hershey. What was it on Sunday? And I think the night before that, it was even maybe 2. I could look it up here real quick just to find out. But no, I take that back. It was 5, so it wasn't that clean. But still, 8 power play opportunities over a 2-game stretch. Not terrible, you know. And when you talk about penalty minutes, there haven't been a lot of fights. There hasn't been any 10-game misconducts. You know, they're all just 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. I don't even think we've had a double minor in quite a while. You know, no 4-minute penalties or anything like that. So uh, team's been doing really good in that regard. They're second fewest in the Atlantic Division in terms of penalty minutes. So I don't think Riley's going to go off tonight on the penalty minute score sheet, but we'll see. Hey Raymond, good to see you. I think you're right. Cleveland may struggle to match what the Checkers have. When you talk about Puljujarvi and all the additions sort of coming back, he's got to be feeling great. You know, after getting up there, he knew he was only going up for a day. He gets his first NHL goal. He comes right back. I think he's got to still be on cloud 9 for that. I'm excited to see a big game from him. But they just put the lineup up there, the starting lineup for Cleveland, and you can't ignore guys like Rocco Grimaldi, Luca Del Bel Beluz. This is still a very potent Cleveland team, so I'm curious to see what we get here tonight. But I think the Checkers, especially as they start to get healthy, I don't know if anyone saw Nick Najelski put out a great article, not only today previewing this series, but also he caught up with head coach Kinnear earlier this week, just talking a little bit about injuries. And there were a lot of changes from the last time we had heard from him. Guys like Aiden McDonough, who we thought was on the cusp of returning, suffered a setback. He's not going to be back at all for the rest of the year. Then there's guys like Ryan McAllister, who we thought was done for the year, who's ahead of schedule, and there's a chance we may see him this season, depending on how his recovery goes. Because, of course, just like McDonough, anyone could have a setback. Same thing with Dalpe. I got to imagine he's getting close. Sandis Vilmanis, he's currently listed as week to week. So we'll see. The last time we saw him week to week, he only missed about 4 or 5 games. So we're hoping it's a little more short term like it was back then. But that's kind of where we sit right now with the injuries. And when you talk about all those injuries, imagine when some of these guys come back. This team is going to be looking real good. I was chatting with someone earlier today about the Savannah Ghost Pirates, who, by the way, in action tonight as well. So maybe during the intermissions or something, you want to switch on over. If you got Flow Hockey, just head on over and check out Savannah, what they got going on. I was talking about it. They're making a push for the playoffs, and they didn't start off all that great this year. But when you think about the injuries that have just riddled this Charlotte Checkers team, they're hurting because of it, because we immediately pull guys up. I think Riley Hughes, who's not in the lineup tonight, but he's in Cleveland with the team, Nicholas Zabane. These are key guys for them that we've plucked in. Even Riley Bezo, I think the plan was for him to be down in the ECHL more often than the AHL this season with the depth that this Checkers team has, but it just really, in my opinion, it's ravaged them. And props to them, and props to their coaching staff. Coach Stahl doing an amazing job down there, keeping them in fighting position for a playoff spot. With the Checkers just kind of taking all of their best players. We had Dennis Sasana up here for a little while, and it's one of those. Josh Davies was up here for probably about half the season. So now that they're starting to get a little bit of solidity, they're kind of solidifying that what their unit is looking like. They're only going to get better as the Checkers get healthier. So it's pretty cool to see what's going on down there with our first year ECHL affiliates in Savannah. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and we'll kind of see where we go there. Yeah, Jacob, he says in the chat, I love seeing Sordiff and Lockwood on the same line. Feels really good. I think their skill sets match each other really well. They're both playmakers by nature. Sordiff a little bit speedier, but Lockwood is so good with his hands, and he's a great passer. And I think just the communication between them always seems to be there. They always kind of know where each other is. And then when you throw in a guy like Wilmer Skoog, who over the course of the last year and a half, he's been with Sordiff a lot. So the two of them have a good chemistry there. I really like that line. I also really like Puljujarvi and Asplund. They've been together ever since Puljujarvi was signed just a couple of weeks ago, and they seem to make things happen. They are two guys, from Scandinavia, Asplund from Sweden, Puljujarvi from Finland. They know how to play the game on the North American side, and they do a fantastic job at that. I like them on a line together, and then when you throw in John Leonard, who has been absolutely incredible this year, and talk about a great piece to add. That's a great second line. And then your first line, CJ Smith, the veteran, up there with the speedy Chris Colo, and then a heavy, heavy Patrick Giles. So I like that top line, because you have a good balance in size. You got a 6'5" Giles out there with sub 6 foot Chris Colo and a CJ Smith who's listed at 6'1", just barely cresting over the 6 foot mark. So I really like the way the lines look here tonight, and I'm curious to see how they do against this Cleveland team. Because look, if there's one thing that we do know, Cleveland is going to play fast. When you have guys like Del Belbaluz, Trey Fix-Wolansky, Rocco Grimaldi, these are guys who they live on their speed. Yeah, Sasana and Van de Sample, Jacob dropped in the chat as well. He's talking about how similar their games are, and I think so too. I think Van de Sample plays a little bit slower, and that's not a knock. I guess I shouldn't say slower. Van de Sample plays a little bit more controlled than Sasana. Sasana's a little bit more offensively minded than a guy like Van de Sample, but at the end of the day, I think that they do have a similar nature. I can definitely see they're both about the same size. They both play a same physical game. So yeah, Van de Sample and Sasana for sure. Definitely have a similar game, and I don't know if it's a long delay or what, but we're here at 7:09, and one of the many reasons I am so thankful and so grateful for the Charlotte Checkers organization, the CRVA, and everybody who runs our games at the Bowplex. When the puck drops at 7 o'clock on the schedule, that puck is hitting the ice at 7 o'clock in real life. It's none of this. We're just going to say it's a 7 o'clock game. We're going to do all of our preamble with the anthem and with the puck drop and all the other fanfare and all that stuff. It's not one of those games where it drops at 7:10, 7:15 like Lehigh Valley and stuff like that. So it's definitely one of those things that I am so thankful for, because look, the later we get started, the later we get out of there. And for us who are working the game, it's already a long day. Brings me to my next point. Throughout this game, while we watch the game, puck's officially down on my end anyway. Maybe you guys got it a few minutes ago, but if you have any questions about what it's like working in sports or working in broadcasting or anything like that, by all means, hit me up in the chat. More than happy to talk to you guys, especially during slow areas of play, things like that. I'd love to chat with you and talk to you a little bit about that, because it certainly is a rewarding and fun time for us, just as much as it is for y'all coming to the games and watching them as fans. So we've already got one shot on goal for Charlotte. I'm not sure that that's correct, because the shot from Asplund hit off of a defenseman, then went out of play. That should not theoretically be a shot on goal, but perhaps I missed that. It's a little tough watching the TV angle, and I'm a little distance away as well, so I'm not going to fault him too much. Oh boy, choppy start. Another stoppage here. 1920 left to go. I mean, we're only 40 seconds in. Yeah, thanks y'all for joining. I just dropped it in the chat. Really, there's a lot of it's fun. It's fun. It's not something I could do for every single game. Do have a lot of other stuff going on and get ready for some upcoming home games and things like that, which we'll touch on here throughout the night. But thanks for coming. This has been a really already. It's been a good time. If I were to end the stream right now, I could say that I had a great time with y'all, and it's only a minute into the first period. I'm not going to do that. I learned my lesson. For those of you who were for the Four Nations, when I went ahead and killed the stream, it was like 11:30 on a school night. I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, I need to get out. I need to get out. I need to get to bed. All that good stuff." I'm not going to do that. We're going to stay with this one. We're going to see it all the way through to the end. That's for sure. Zone. That's a risky change, but Bowie onto the ice, and now a whistle offside, and that gives us a chance to thank University Hospitals for 60 Sports Medicine Institute. Oh, that's awesome! Great story there in the chat by Anne Marie. Yeah, broadcasting is an amazing job. Like your boyfriend out of college, I kind of lucked into it. It was something that I always wanted to do in college. I couldn't initially get my foot in the door because it's a very, very competitive industry, and this is probably in my early 20s. We're going back almost 20 years ago now, but it was one of those things where it found me, I like to say. I heard a commercial, local radio needed some help. One thing leads to another, and now I'm in the great city of Charlotte and having a great time with this team. And I've got a couple more bucket list items on my professional list, and right at the top is win a Calder Cup. So I'm hoping that that happens this year. So far, it's kind of what I expected. I know we're early. It's only 2 minutes and 15 seconds in. We've had a lot of stoppages, which that kind of halts the pace of play a little bit. But also, even when they are playing, it's a lot of back and forth. These two teams trying to feel each other out and try and figure out what strategies to take and which way to go about it. Like to see Bjornfoot step up in an offensive role here, down the stretch. I know that that's not necessarily the strong point of his game. He's not known quite as much like a Carrick would be, but I would love to see, even if he can kind of get hot over a stretch of games, kind of like we've seen from Mike Benning here recently. That's just all you need. You need something that just shoulders the load across the board, right? You can't count on the same 2, 3, 4, 5 players to always get it done. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but if everybody can get hot at their own times and have their own 2, 3 game little stretches of success, that's huge. That's huge. Well, Jake Gaudette's another was a very tough one. You got to keep an eye on him. Asplin's been one of the Checkers' best face-off guys all year. He just got tossed here, but there you go. Get the clock all situated. All right, clean win by Leonard. Let's see if they can set something up. I haven't seen any sustained pressure from either team here in the early going. Again, we're only 3 minutes and some odd seconds in. We get another stoppage for icing. Oh my gosh! All right, so what do you guys got out there? All right, let's see. What's been your favorite moment in an interview? Whether it's wholesome moments, small world moment, funny moment, whatever. I think for me, my favorite moment in an interview, probably Alex Lyon. I was an intern with Lehigh Valley when he was a rookie, and I had interviewed him down there as a rookie, just as an intern, a rookie in broadcasting, just trying to get things figured out as a kid. And I was a little scared to interview him, because although I was older than him. He was just fresh out of college at 22, 23 years old, and I didn't get started in the American Hockey League. I wasn't an intern until 2000 and was that 15, 16. So I was 28, 29 years old. So I probably had 7 years on the kid, and I was still a little nervous, but he was a rookie too. So he was a little nervous. And then to see him again in Charlotte, that was kind of a full circle moment. But I absolutely enjoyed the sit down interviews that I did with head coach Kinnear. As well as then assistant coach Dan Bilesma, who of course we all know is head coach of the Seattle Kraken these days. Just uncovering some of their similarities. That was a lot of fun. Oh, first big save for Drieger here. Some of the best guys that I have interviewed, I really enjoyed Owen Tippett for the short period of time he was with us, and Spencer Knight. You really can't go wrong with Spencer Knight. Face-off violation call against Hershey. I don't know this for sure, but 99.999999% of the time is when a player drops down to their knee, either covers the puck with their hand or passes it off their hand to another player. So that is what the face-off violation penalty would be called. That you can call a face-off violation too if guys aren't obeying the linesman's rules in terms of putting their sticks down properly and in the right place. That was not what happened because the puck was dropped down and we had a little bit of a scrum. It was tied up there for a second, and then we got the face-off violation whistle. So that's why I'm saying 99.9% it was either he covered it with his hands or he had a balled up fist and he punched the puck out to his teammate. You can only use your stick, or if it hits off of sticks and then rattles into your feet, then you can kick it across. Well, good question, Jacob. Jacob's asking in the chat, what's my difference in prep between a game when I'm going solo and a game when I have a color commentator? I don't have a color commentator all that often. I think in the 4 years that I've had, I can remember Derek Wilkinson joining me up in the booth at the outdoor game. I can remember my good friend Conley Tripp. He's a young teenager who's trying to get his way into the broadcast world. He kind of served as my color analyst, and I'm going to have a couple coming up over the next week or so. Skoog, good rip there. Let's see what they can do. Checkers on the power play. I missed that. But the difference in preparation is there's none. I prepare if I have a color analyst, since I almost never do, I will go ahead. If let's say I do have a color analyst, I'm going to prepare the same way I would as if they're not there for two reasons. One, I'm a creature of habit. So I'm just going to prepare the same way I always prepare because that's what I know and that's what I feel comfortable with. The second reason being you never know what might happen. Traffic at the Coliseum could lock them up. Some kind of family emergency and the analyst can't make it, so you need to be prepared to do both as I normally would. So not much. Come on, Swords. That's good top. Here's Fitzwilansky. He's trying to get his way in. Nice job by Bjorn Foot. Good drop pass. Hop the stick of Lockwood. That would have been nice. Preparation, I keep it exactly the same. There are some things that I will do a little different. Like when I have a color analyst, it's supposed to go on the air just to talk about a couple of things. There is a communication aspect to it. Sometimes you want to have hand signals to each other. Sometimes you want to, have a specific set of communication so that way when you're done talking. But a good play-by-play broadcaster through his career, when you start working with a color analyst, and I had the fortune of working with a color analyst, Ron Hunter, back in Minnesota an entire season. I really learned how to work with an analyst, but you get really good at trailing off your voice. So that way they know where the obvious time to talk is. So like right now, if that was a glove save that made there, I would just it's usually the time and score. 12:54 left to go here in the first. No score, checkers and monsters, and there's an obvious trail off, so they know they can jump back in. And some of the things you talk about in that pregame meeting are, okay, listen, I'm going to obviously trail off and let you know when to pick it up, but at the end of the day, you have to keep an eye on the ice, so when the players are lining up for the face off, you also throw it back to me. You don't want to get stuck in your color analyst telling a story for 25 minutes while plays going on, and you just kind of stare, and that's when things just kind of don't look great, or I should say don't sound great. So having a partner in the booth with you truly is an art form, and the more and more you do it, the better off you get. But there are some baseline skills that you learn just by having someone with you every now and then. Yeah, commercials got a little loud, so I'm not the only one that has commercials up here and audio down here. So far, out shooting him 6-1. That's pretty crazy. Emery, I try to, anybody who's looking and who's interested in broadcasting, I welcome them to come up at a time that, is pre-worked out between the two of us. I think that's something that, having known existed when I was struggling and trying to break into the business, it's on me. I didn't ask for it either, but had I known that option was available, I definitely would have taken it up. So, I've been at the fortune of Doug Plagans in Florida, Jim Jackson in Philadelphia. Soon I'll be in Raleigh with Mike Maniscalco, shadowing them, guys at the next level, learning what they do so I can be better down here. So the best thing I can do is pay that forward to someone who's at a lower level than me, whether it's ECHL, SPHL, high school, college, just even remotely thinking about it, or just thinks it's cool. I'm more than happy to have you all up in the booth and have a good time. Just so long as I can't get 8 deep up there. It's pretty tight, and that we talk about it beforehand. Ooh, Pugliarvi's been looking really good, especially the last 2 games, which is, I think, ironic. It's the 2 games that he didn't get a point on the score sheet. I just think he's looked even sharper, though. His speed is something else. And he's trying to make an NHL team. At any time, he can be signed by an NHL squad. It's that easy. Ooh, Drieger. Yeah, this Cleveland team, I forgot about how much they're made up of guys that have spent time in other AHL franchises. Madison Bowie, the former Hershey Bear. I can't recall who they were just talking about seconds ago, but that rang a bell with me, and I'll figure it out here in a minute. But yeah, boy, it's locked up. Ooh, good pick. Just get it out to center. Good play. Good play. Did he just say shots 4-3 when the shot clock is 7-3? Another reason why I adore the folks, the off-ice officials at Bojangles Coliseum. They're usually spot on with those shots. And for those of you who don't know how that works, there's one person who has pad and pencil, and he is writing down the shots on goal and probably punching it on the scoreboard controls in the arena. That puts it up on the ribbon boards. That's what puts it up on the Jumbotron. And then there's someone independent of that who's logging things on AHL TV, which has its own separate input. So from time to time, you're going to get a little bit of variation if one gets missed, because sometimes it could be the same guy or gal who's writing down a shot and then has to punch it in on the big Jumbotron input and then AHL TV and add the other one. And sometimes you get these flurries where there's two, three, four shots in quick succession, and bam, 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 and you miss one, and you forget to put in 5 in the arena when it should be 7, and you forget to put in 2 of those on AHL TV. It's not a perfect science because the systems aren't tied in together, simply because there's so much of a variance between all these AHL arenas. I mean, geez, Cleveland is playing at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, a gorgeous arena, but it's the home of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that is an NBA arena where they're playing, and they have capabilities that a lot of other AHL arenas don't have, some of the smaller ones. So, there's just nothing is perfect. It's not like they're all built from the same structure like in the NHL, where just about every single arena is relatively new outside of your TD Gardens and your Madison Square Gardens, and things like that, where they spend a lot of money to get them up to snuff. You're not necessarily going to see that at the AHL level. So there's just some different technical things there. That's why also, sometimes if you're watching me on AHL TV and I say the time is 9:54 and the real time on the clock is or the clock showing on AHL TV is 10:22, or there's some discrepancy there, it's because again I'm reading the clock off the scoreboard in the arena, which is the real clock, and there's someone separate from that whose job it is to hit start and stop on the AHL TV clock. So that's why you get some discrepancies, or like, when the puck is dropped, kind of like right now, it's stuck at 153. We've been playing hockey here for a little bit. It's because they forgot to hit start. So that's why you might see some of that stuff. Toby, thanks for joining us. I know you guys got a big game there in Austin. Oh, good hit. Kyle Criscolo. Man, he slammed his man down in the corner. Yeah, still at 9:53. Someone forgot to. Was this a 2-on-1? No, 2-on-2 opportunity, but let's see what happens. One thing that has been an absolute constant in the 4 years, 3.5 years that I've covered this Charlotte Checkers team, that Jordy Kinnear has been the head coach of, they are so responsible when it comes to defensemen jumping up into the play and forwards dropping back and covering the blue line. They are always there to help their guys out. The communication there and the cycling there has just always been on point. Would have loved to have seen Carrick bury that one. One thing I will say, going back to the color commentary conversation that we were having a second ago, one of the things I also would like to talk about before we take the air is the pronunciations of the players. Because nothing sounds worse than when the play-by-play guy says sordif and the color guy says sordif or sourdif or has a different pronunciation. And I know that sometimes there's a gray area. Puljujärvi, some people call him Puljujärvi because there is that extra syllable there in the middle, but when you bleed it all together, it comes out Puljujärvi. So sometimes there is that. So it's just kind of more so agreeing that we're going to say it the same way, so it's not so jarring to the listener. It also adds a little bit of credibility, right? Nothing nothing sounds worse than someone who doesn't know how to say someone's name, or if a play-by-play guy or a color analyst accidentally forgets a number or something like that. And look, it happens. I do it. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Um, let's go! Let's go! I think it was Rasmus Asplund. Okay, that's fantastic showing the goalie, but who led the handshake line? Okay, zoom in on the foot. All right, Asplund came in with the wraparound. So who buried it on the other side? John Leonard. All right, let's go, Leonard. Leonard has the Checkers record this season for consecutive games with a goal. He's got 4 straight. That was snapped when the Checkers got shut out against Hershey. So a 1-0 lead, that's huge. That's a great way to start. Steve Moulton in the chat from the awesome area of Huntsville, Alabama, the voice of the Huntsville Havoc. Happy to have you. You don't mispronounce things, my man. You're too much of a pro. You live, eat, breathe, sleep radio broadcasting, my man. We got to get Miles on here. I should see if I can get a recording of him doing he shoots, he scores, and I can hit a button and play it out. I'm sure we could find that somewhere. You know, it's good to see the Checkers get rewarded for that. 11 shots and getting a goal on. Ooh, ooh! Can't wait for CJ Smith to get his first. I think it was a great signing. Derek Wilkinson, Director of Player Personnel, finding him overseas. You know, I'm sure he had a number of guys on his radar that were overseas that formerly played in the American Hockey League, and in a situation where, you know, forwards were dropping like flies, he was going to make some signings and bring some guys over. But I really like the choice of CJ Smith. I've always liked the way he played in Rochester, and even going back to his junior career. I've seen a lot of his highlights from junior because the team that I formerly worked for, that's the team that he played in juniors, and he was kind of a legend in those halls, even though we never crossed paths. Good lane here. Puck is loose. Nope. Nope. Well, it's 1-0. I'll take that. They do always do better, and you're absolutely right. Let me hold on 1 second. I can pull that stat. I want to say this is the 27th time this year that they have scored the first goal. 28th. They were they're 21-4-1-1 when scoring first in their previous 27. So 21-6 basically. Absolutely a fantastic point. How do we match up against the Americans? It's really tough to say. Right now, Devin Levi is playing out of this world in goal for them. I think our forwards match up really well, and I think our defensemen match up really well. It's going to be one of those things. What can we do to rattle Devin Levi? We'll see if and when, you know, that opportunity presents itself. I don't think the two teams are playing each other, are they? Oh, yeah. Okay. On the 12th of March and then the 21st of March as well, both on the road. That's part of that long break. It's Rochester, Toronto, Utica, Rochester, Utica before coming back for another 4 games in 6 days. Providence and Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but it's really, if you can solve Devin Levi, you can solve Rochester, in my opinion. 1-0. All right, let me see. I got some. All right. Okay, hold on 1 second, y'all. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to. Got some people saying that they can't find where to go, so we're gonna go ahead and drop the link right now. I'm gonna mute the commercials because that's rough a little bit. Let's turn my volume down here a little bit. All right, what are y'all doing out there tonight? Hanging out on a Friday night. Anybody got anything good going on? I know there's a couple of good sporting events going on in Charlotte, and I know I'm excited to come back home. We've got what is it, 4 games in 6 days coming up. We've got Springfield, which is a great opportunity against a bubble team right now. Going into today, they were the last place team. If the playoffs were to start today, they would be the last team in. And then, of course, a little bit further out, we've got Lehigh Valley, who's a team that's right on our coattails. So depending on how this series goes with Cleveland and depending on how it goes against Springfield, that Lehigh Valley series could be very, very important, if not for, keeping them at bay, but also simply for just maybe gaining some ground.
3-7, Brad. That's a notable one, right? 3 years away from the end of it all.
Oh, you got lots of time. Happy birthday, big fella.
Thank you very much.
What deal we get?
Well, it was Spider-Man heavy. I'll tell you that this year, as you might be able to predict, given his age bracket. Out to center, I'm sure it was.
All right, 3-on-2 if they hurry here. Good drop pass, but it was on the backhand side. That's all right. Get it in deep. Comes out. Benning. Ah! Boy, I thought he had 4 goals in his last 4 games right there. Trying to go top corner on the glove. 16 shots. If that shot counter is right, boy, the Checkers really peppering Greaves. Yeah, so that shot, according to Tony Brown, 16-5. So it's not 100% accurate, but the Charlotte portion is right. 16 shots. Now, the most shots they've had in a period, to my knowledge, 25, I believe. And that was the game against Hartford not too long ago. I don't know if this shocks y'all, but most of the stats that you hear me say on a broadcast and things like that, I do not have them memorized. I don't have that kind of brain. I am not... I think of the Zach Galifianakis gif where he's thinking and he's got all the numbers and the formulas and equations going around his head. That is not me. I am not that person. I am much more of a place and time remember kind of person. I remember dates really well, but when it comes to remembering numbers and things like that, I usually don't have them. I have everything printed out and laid out in front of me in an easy way to access. So that's kind of how I spit that out, and I try to plan when I'm going to drop it in the right conversation. So I'm looking that up right now, as a matter of fact.
Side, it's Asplin bailing to the center circle. Of course, back across, and now York taps towards Gambrell, comes back into the field zone. Clayton locates that puck in his stance, shakes past Rasmus Asplin, and then feeds one to his left.
Yeah, Steve, absolutely. Look, it's the only way I could survive. It is the only way I could survive. Anybody who joined me on the Four Nations live that I did not too long ago, I was kind of showing everybody a little sneak peek under the hood to see what some of the prep was with spotting charts and reference sheets and game notes and all that stuff. Havoc at Pelham taking on the Bulls tonight. Ooh, they won 5-1 against the Macon Mayhem last night. Nice job for the Huntsville Havoc. Fun fact, actually, I had just posted this on Twitter not too long ago, Steve, but I don't know if you know this, but in the newest incarnation of the Birmingham Bulls, their very first game was on the road at Mississippi. It was my second ever broadcast, and they decided to send a whole TV crew and take my audio. Eli Gold couldn't make it because it was a Saturday. You know, we had Friday, Saturday home games to kick the year off. We had Knoxville on Friday, and then we had Birmingham come in, and on Saturday, Eli Gold couldn't do it. He was obviously busy with Alabama football. They're like, "Hey, we're just going to take your feed," and I'm like, "Okay." This is only game number 2, but sure, I'm just gonna do my best. And it's out there on YouTube. You can find it if you search Bulls River Kings. It was cool. I just posted it not too long ago, as I was thinking about it. It was part of a Throwback Thursday or something. See how they transition here into the zone. Not bad. Giles, can he get control? Hey, Rex. Good to see you on YouTube there. How y'all watching me? I know we got a lot on Facebook right now. I got a couple here on YouTube. I'm not quite sure what's going on the old Twitter sphere. 1 period in the books. 1-0. John Leonard, nice job, guys. 18 shots in that period. Oh yeah, I was looking that up, wasn't I? Most shots in a period. I know it's in the 20s, so I know that this game is not going to be it, but I know that for a fact. It's either 22 or 25. I want to say it's 25 that they just did most recently against Hartford in the last series. No, it was 22, but it was back on the 15th of February, so that was a lot of fun. That game. Jesse Puljujarvi playing his 600th pro game tonight. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Boy, John Leonard, how many times, I mean, we know the exact number, but I just mean, how many times have we seen him get going? Asplin with that beautiful wraparound. The rebound came right out to him. This is why he crashed the net. This is why he hang out.
Winning battles in your own zone, connecting those dots as you're coming across their own blue line and getting pucks in deep.
Not great to hear about our friends at Ghost Piler. It's losing 2-0 right now. Thanks for the update, Anne-Marie. Do you ever I remember David Zach Robinson, a former teammate of mine with the Mississippi River Kings and good friend to this day, who works for a team that shall not be named in the Atlantic Division in Pennsylvania. That's not Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, or Lehigh Valley. Jumped in the chat and said, David, who our general manager is the gentleman who hired me, David Schmall, asking if Zach knew me based on my application when I was trying to get that job so many years ago, just because we were both from around a kind of similar area in Pennsylvania. State's not that small. We did not know each other. Do you ever have a hard time being impartial during a game? I don't. Great question, Tim. I love this question. I once heard the great John Forsland say that hockey is an exciting game, that you are underselling the sport. You are doing a disservice to yourself as a broadcaster and your fans by underplaying big moments in the game, whether they're happening for your team or against your team. I know some people have even commented on my Facebook or on my Mixer account during games or things like that, that I may get too elevated when the other team scores. If you go back and listen, I promise you, I am always more elevated when the Checkers score when the other team scores, but I'm still going to be elevated when the other team scores. I am not one of those guys who will just sit there when the other team scores. Oh, and he scores. Because I feel like you're underplaying the moment. Now, that said, if they lose in overtime and it's a sudden death heartbreak, I might keep it short and I might keep it a little lower because that plays to the drama. That plays to the nature of the game. Just gone. So you don't necessarily want to be screaming, they lose, or so and so, it kind of plays into that. But no, I never have a problem being impartial. I always deep down am rooting for my team. But I know because of the capabilities of Flow Hockey, because of the fact that we're on WAME radio, which is broadcast throughout, a good portion of our area, that people who are listening in, 90% of them may be Checkers fans, but there are certainly folks in the Charlotte area who are Hershey fans or Lehigh Valley fans or Wilkes-Barre fans or whomever. I still owe it to them to call the game relatively down the middle. I'm not going to be dead down the middle like I would be if I was on ESPN, like those guys should be. They have no dog in the fight between Florida and Edmonton last night, let's say. Or I think it was Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Those are those national broadcasts right down the middle. Me, I'm going to always lean 75% my side, but I'm still going to give props when props are due. If there's an amazing goal that's scored against the Checkers because the guy comes in and dipsy doodles and dances his way around and somehow beats the goaltender and I'm completely just flabbergasted, I'm going to say that. I will absolutely give that man props because it is an exciting moment in the game. And even though it happened against our team, it's still one of the best things that can happen is excitement. That's why people get drawn to this game. So, no, I don't believe I have a problem, staying impartial, but especially since, I don't ever root for anybody to win other than the Checkers. And I also, at the same time, I don't root on air for the Checkers. I don't believe. My angle is always Checkers, like I have my keys to the game, which is what do the Checkers need to do to win the game. My angle, is always Checkers in the sense that I try to talk from a Charlotte Checkers point of view. When there's downtime in between whistles, I'm talking more about the Checkers than I am necessarily about the visiting team. So it's the angle is always Checkers, but I'm not rooting. I'm not there to root. I am not there to be a fan. I am there to bring the game to y'all and to make sure you guys know what's going on. That's the name of the game for a broadcaster. Really good question. All right, we got a 2-2 game in Savannah. Can anybody let us know who got the goals in that one? I would love to know that. I want to know, is it Sasana? I know Drevich has been having a good go. Miracle on Main Street, thank you so much for joining us on YouTube. Thanks for the comment. I try to keep things even as best as I can, but again, the angle is always going to be Checkers. Always. Ultimately, I'm there to represent the team, but I'm also there to represent the game. That's how I think about it, I'll be the first one to tell you, if the team's not playing well and they're getting outshot 18-1 and they just look like, they got done spending a night down on Bourbon Street in New Orleans and they're just slow and they got cement in their skates, I'll be the first one to tell you. Fortunately, we don't come across that a lot with this team, nor have I in the last 3.5 years, so I don't have to do that often. But I just like to call it the way I see it so you guys who are tuned in get the most accurate picture as possible. It's just kind of how I feel. That runs through my core.
Like
Ed, thank you so much for watching back to all of those on-demand games. I do the same thing. I critique myself for every single broadcast I do. Believe it or not, I'll go back and listen. Some people like podcasts to go to bed. I mentioned this the other night. I will listen back to broadcasts to fall asleep to, and I'll listen to a period probably before nodding off, and I will try to find a couple of things that I could have done better. And I'm always seeking out help and guidance to become better as best I can. So it's one of those things where I just this is my profession. This is so I want to do it 110% right. If the players can practice, I can practice. Even though I'm not broadcasting a game and this is more free casual conversation, it's keeping the mouth moving during this weekend where I'm not calling any games because I got to get ready and turn around. I don't want to have a hoarse voice or be sore or feel like after 2 periods of play on Tuesday night that I can't hang anymore because we've got a long schedule coming up. We've got those 4 games in 6 days, and then we're off 2 weeks. And then, boy, we've got another 4 games in 6 days at the end of March. So stuff like this helps me kind of keep warm, helps me keep talking. But yeah, I try to do everything I can to just be as solid as I can and as strong as I can. And I promise you, I can point out every single little thing that I do wrong in every broadcast. And I probably know I'm doing it in the moment too. There have been many a nights where I've been driving home on Independence just going, oh man, that was not a good night. And I go back and listen to it and yeah, I'm right. But there's also plenty of times where I'm like, man, that was not a good night. And then I listen back and I go, actually, no, yeah, that was pretty good. I was too hard on myself in the moment, but it's the only way you're going to get better is by critiquing yourself. Drevich, Swint, and Noss on goal one. Michael with the update. Thank you, sir, on Facebook here. Paliani, Granowitz, and Drevich on the second goal. So Drevich with a multiple point night so far for him. That's pretty good. I like seeing that. I like seeing that. Gecko123, the best play caller in the world. I wouldn't go that far, but thank you so much. That was really kind. Very, very kind. I think there's a lot of guys doing a great job out there in the American League and beyond. I mean, I listen to some of the other broadcasts as well because the only way I'm going to get better is not only by listening to myself, but by also listening to some of the other guys out there and what they're doing. But what Zach Fish does in Hershey, Bob Rotruck does in Lehigh Valley, Tony Brown in Cleveland. He's been there for 9 seasons now. I think this might even be 10. I can't quite remember, but he does such a great job. Jason Shia is fantastic. Alan Alan Fearing in Bridgeport, another really really good AHL voice, and those guys, I look up to them to be as tight and as consistent as they are in their broadcasts, and it's a very very good landscape right now. Across the American Hockey League. So, we're very, it makes it harder, to be the best you can be and to rise to the top, but stone sharpens stone. I always say that. So the better your competition is around the league, the better you're going to be. You got to rise to that occasion. So the AHL right now is filled with fantastic voices. Fantastic voices. And there's more coming up too. I mean, you talk about guys in the ECHL who are just extremely talented. There's plenty of them. Cristiano down in Savannah is one of them. He's a great voice. And, I don't think it'll be long before we see him in the American Hockey League, depending on how things shake out. I don't want to, put words in his mouth. I'm not sure if that's what his goal is or not. But, we're very fortunate. The landscape right now is very, very strong. So let's see what's going on around the rest of the league. Obviously, we're Checkers fans. We always are. We are rooting for a Wilkes-Barre-Scranton loss at Syracuse. Right now it's 1-0 Penguins at the end of 1. And I think that's the only team in action here tonight that we have to worry about. Providence, I believe, is off tonight. I think Providence is off. Let's take a look. Manitoba, they're on top of Belleville. Boy, I don't know what it is with the stumbling through these words here. Manitoba on top of Belleville in the second period. Axel Janssen-Fjallby, the former Hershey Bear, getting the goal in that one for Manitoba. Springfield and Hartford are scoreless, Wilkes-Barre has that 1-0 lead over Syracuse. Valtteri Puustinen getting the goal there. Rochester Americans, Utica Comets, they're scoreless after one. Lehigh Valley has a 2-0 lead over Bridgeport and Allentown. That is a team that you got to keep an eye on, simply because they're so close to the Checkers in the standings. Brendan Furry and Jacob Gaucher with the tallies in that one. And those are the only games in action so far. There's a handful coming up, all of them Western Conference games. Iowa and Milwaukee, Abbotsford, Calgary, Rockford, Tucson, Ontario, Colorado, and Coachella out in San Diego. So where are we at with the standings officially? I know I posted them yesterday, and there was no games last night. So Hershey's in first place with 67. Providence is 65. Wilkes-Barre has 63. Charlotte with 61. So if Wilkes-Barre loses tonight to Syracuse and the Checkers can pull out the dub over Cleveland, they'll pull into a tie for third place. Now, if Charlotte loses tonight and Lehigh Valley wins, all of a sudden there's a tie for fourth place with Lehigh Valley coming in and pulling even with Charlotte. Springfield has 57. If they manage to knock off Hartford, Lehigh Valley loses, all of a sudden you have a tie there for fifth place. And then, of course, Hartford and Bridgeport are the two teams right now in the playoff bubble, outside looking in. Hartford with 48 points, Bridgeport with 30. And I think time is really running out. I don't know what the magic number for elimination would be for Bridgeport at this point. I'd have to do math, and trust me, that's not my strong suit. They only have 20 games remaining, which is the second fewest amount of remaining games in the division, behind only Lehigh Valley, who has 19. They'll have 18 by the end of tonight. That's the other side of it. The Checkers have the fewest games played in the division. So when we sit here and we see how clogged it is, you see a Providence team that's out in front of the Checkers by 4 points or 2 wins. The Checkers have played 4 less games than Providence. Now they're going to pick up one of those games tonight. Checkers playing, Providence is not playing. But that's the other side of the coin. So there's still a lot of season left. I mean, most teams are going to have 20. You've got Hershey has 22 left. Providence has 20 left. Wilkes-Barre Scranton has 23 left. Charlotte has 24 left. These all include tonight's games that are going on. Lehigh Valley, 19 left. Springfield, 22, and Hartford and Bridgeport with 20 left. So there's still, that's a lot of hockey. We still have a full month and 3 weeks of hockey. I mean, the Checkers' final game of the year comes on the road. 2 games against Springfield on the, comes at home. My apology. No, I was right. On the road on the 12th and 13th against Utica. So so I mean, you're talking 3 weeks. You got a month and 3 weeks. So there's a lot of hockey to be played. I'm gonna go get a refreshment. I'm going to stop off at the restroom. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Second period is just moments away. Thank you all for joining me once again. This has been a lot of fun. I will just keep talking if you guys don't give me stuff to chat about. So I will make sure that as long as there's something in the chat, I'll keep an eye on it as best I can, trying to jump back and forth between the 3 platforms here. But I will be right back. Give me 30 seconds. And we're back. Looks like so are they. Guys coming out of the locker room here, 1-0. You know, the only downside to the way the Charlotte Checkers play hockey in terms of like just when you look at stats and you look at numbers, 18 shots, but only 1 goal. And I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to be sad that the score is 1-0. That's for darn sure. I like having the lead no matter what. But you would think for your effort for 18 shots that maybe you would have a little bit more. But I think it's because of the way they play. It's a lot of in tight stuff. It's like that wraparound chance that Rasmus Asplund. That was a shot that ultimately Leonard got the rebound and put it in home. So I just think it's the way they play. And at the end of the day, you can wear people down playing that way. And that's exactly how the Checkers do it. Let's see what else is going on out there. Is there much of a difference between calling at home versus away? Yes, there's a couple of different things, home versus away. Away, you have to be aware that you are operating with their arena pulling the strings in terms of how long the intermissions are, when the media timeouts are, and how many. For the most part, teams are all uniform with that stuff, but intermissions can be really difficult and different. You know, last year the Checkers, for instance, were about 15 minutes in intermission length. Now they're 18, and it can fall somewhere anywhere in there. Those are the things that you got to think about when you're talking about preparing content and getting everything ready to go. Also, on the road, I'm solo, so I don't have my engineer Justice Wallace in the booth with me, so I have to do just about everything on my own. Whereas at home, you know, when we're going to break, I just say the out cue. I say, you know, coming up, we got plenty more coming up after this. This is Charlotte Checkers Hockey on the Checkers Media Network. He goes ahead and hits the button and adjusts the sliders and gets us to a commercial break. Whereas when I'm on the road, I've got to do all that. I've got to say that while I'm hovering over my mixing board and then hit the buttons and hit the mouse and do all that stuff. So there's a little bit more work that goes into it when I'm on the road. Plus, you also have to hurry. When you're on the road, I don't get the opportunity to get audio from the locker room because there's no one down in the locker room who is interviewing head coach Kinnear or any of the players that can send me their audio. But that's okay because since no one's down there, I've got to wrap up the post-game show. I've got to put all my equipment. I've got to break it all down and put it all away and get it all tucked away and then get down so I can catch the bus and not be late because the last thing I want to be is the last guy on the bus, especially if the game didn't go well. You don't want to be right in the crosshairs of the entire bus for making everybody late when all they want to do is go back to the hotel and everybody's in not a great mood. You don't want to be the last person anyway, even if you won 10-1 or 10-0, you don't want to be that last guy. So there's a little bit more of a time crunch aspect to it, being on the road. So being on the road too, you know, you get used to, since I do many more home games nowadays than I do road games, I've gotten used to the goal horn and y'all in the crowd getting pumped. When a goal is scored, I get pumped. The goal horn goes off. You guys are going crazy out in the stands. Like, so I'm used to that. When you go on the road, it's the exact opposite. When we score, I get pumped and the visiting or the home arena is quiet. And that can be a little tough to get used to. And sometimes it's like a pin drops in that place. And depending on what arena you're in, like Wilkes-Barre. Boy, if you win an overtime game in Wilkes-Barre where their press box is placed, you are right in the middle of the crowd and people will just turn around and look at you going, yeah! And they are so angry that they just lost. But so that can be a little different. You know, you get used to these things. I got used to the goal song and the goal horn. When we had Albany River Rat Night or Charlotte River Rat not too long ago, we had a different goal song. I don't know if y'all noticed it, but we went to what the River Rats used to use in song 2 by the band Blur. And that even kind of threw me off on the first goal because I'm so used to hearing our normal goal song because there's a pattern that I've become so comfortable and so connected with. And that threw me off after that first goal, but I fell back into the swing on the second goal. But it's those are kind of the weird things that maybe you don't think about being on the road. The prep is the same. I don't. I lose out on my color printing when I'm on the road, which is it sounds like first world problems, but all of my notes, I don't have any here to show y'all, but all of my notes are color coded. Red for the Checkers, blue for the Monsters, brown for Hershey, orange for Lehigh Valley. Whatever. They're all done uh, in color. And when we're on the road, the hotels, I don't know if you've ever used a hotel printer at their business centers. They're just black and white. If they even have paper, if they even work. So I do lose out on color. Now there's a couple of places that we would go that I could ask the home broadcaster, hey man, can you print this out in your front office for me and bring it up to the booth. Hershey, those guys are really good at that for me. Or sometimes I've been known to just go to a Staples or a UPS store. When we were back in Lehigh Valley at the end of the year, that's what I did. I went down. Obviously, that's my hometown. Allentown is my hometown. So when we were there, and we were there over the course of 4 days or so, at the end of December, and I went home to see some friends and family and stuff while I was on Christmas break, and while they were on Christmas break, and it was one of those things where I was like, I know where the Staples is, and I'll just send it in there, and I'll just go pick it up. It's nothing. I was borrowing I had a rental car, and I was borrowing a friend's place to stay, and I was like, I'll just go over there and get it done. So I got my color printing that way. But sometimes when you're on the road, you don't get that color, and that takes half a second for me to process to make sure, am I looking at the right team? I got to look at the words now. I can't just use color association. A very long way to say there's very minor differences. Already 4 shots in this period, and we're 3 minutes in. Great question, Jacob. I like that. And Maurice is waiting for Guzda to play. I haven't ever since he was reassigned. I have not seen. Has he even backed anyone up? Or I think he's still practicing, trying to get into game shape. I mean, he's missed so much time due to that lower body injury. I feel like they probably just have him down there working out and practicing. I pulled open the ECHL page here, and I see Rapid City's Bennett named in Glasgow ECHL Player of the Week. Blake Bennett of the Rapid City Rush. I used to call games for Blake's brother, Shane. He used to play with the Mississippi River Kings. Shane Bennett, number 26, if I remember correctly. So it's good to see his brother. He went to American International, if I'm not mistaken. They play at Mass Mutual Center, where the Springfield Thunderbirds play. But I wanted to go to wanted to see some of the rosters here. Checkers had a good power play back in the first. Let's see if they can get one here. I know they keep slipping. They came back to reality, and I thought maybe they would spike again, but let's see what they can do here. Yeah, Cooper Black. He's got 7 games. I forgot about that down there in Savannah, but no sign of Guzda just yet. I think he's more so just kind of trying to work his way back in. I mean, at the level these guys play, you after an injury, same thing for some of these guys. If we see them back, the Dalpys, the McAllisters, the Vilmanuses, those guys, even when they do come back, like you can't expect them to immediately make an impact just because if they've missed any extended period of time at the level these guys play, at the speed and how every split second counts, it's just you can't expect them to make an impact right away. They will try because they are professional athletes and that's what they live for. And sometimes, yeah, it happens, but that is not the norm. That's for sure. Right now the score is 1-0. Charlotte is out in front. John Leonard scored back in the first. Miracle on Main Street asking on our YouTube feed. She's at work or he's at work. And Can't watch the game particularly. Right now it's 1-0 here in the second. 14 minutes and 20 seconds left to the Flow hockey screen, the overlay. I just lost the feed here as Greaves covers up on one. Mandy, you're late. We've had a lot of RK shoutouts. Oh, a lot. Steve Moulton from Huntsville, a guy that I know you know. He was hanging out with us. Zach came in a few minutes ago. Now you're here. All my River Kings folks are popping through. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Yeah, screen's going black here for me, too. I think they might have a loose connection with the camera, which is... It happens. It's live sports. You would hope that an arena like Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, the house that LeBron built, that it would be a little more solid, but it happens to everybody. It happens to us. 27 shots on goal. Unreal. And we're not even at the midway point of regulation. This is pretty crazy. Do I ever follow the Federal prospects? Yeah, I used to follow the Federal prospects a lot, especially when I was in the SPHL, because that's where we would get a lot of our guys. So, you know, the Thunderbirds, I can't remember, were they brand new the year after I left? Is that when they popped up? They might have been around. But yeah, I did. I have followed them. Not nearly as closely, I don't think, because it's a league that I never quite worked in. Same thing with the ECHL, ironically enough. I never worked in the ECHL, so I don't have the greatest knowledge base of, you know, all-time leading scorers and things like that as I do for the NAHL, for the AHL, the SPHL, stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely follow the FPHL. I think it's a great league. It's growing. You know, they're adding teams. They added, the Zydeco in Louisiana. You know, they've added a lot of teams, Motor City Rockers. I think that's up and coming. I really do. Great question.
With expert sports medicine and world-class everyday care to keep everyone reaching their goals.
Goals are my specialty.
We're University Hospital. We're here for you.
From Avon to Alliance.
Well, it looks like the Monsters are going to get a power play here.
No
Checkers penalty kill, best in the American Hockey League.
electric rates consistently affordable. We are 240 Ohio communities using our collective strength to buy and
I wonder by how much. Let's pull that up.
benefits along to you. For more than 2 decades, we've worked together to help you keep more of the money you earn.
86.5%. 86.5. That gives them just about a point lead over everybody else. Rochester and Rockford each have 85.6, so they're 0.9% behind Charlotte, almost a point. But let's see what they do here. This is a big kill. This is a situation where if you're Cleveland, you're talking about, look, this is a 1-0 game. We are getting outshot like it's our jobs, and we got a power play here. We could do something, and instantly this is a brand new hockey game. So let's see what happens. Now, at the same time, the Checkers can use that exact same thinking. Guys, we're up 1-0. We are out shooting them. We are all over the place in this game. A huge kill, and all of a sudden, this is a different game. Plus, we know how deadly the Checkers are shorthanded this year. 13 shorthanded goals, the most in the American Hockey League. So let's see what they do here if they get a little aggressive. When you take a look at power play percentage, what's Cleveland at right now? 17.7%, not great. That puts them in 4th place in the North Division. If we're looking in the league, power play, they are down near the bottom, the bottom third. They're 20th in the league at 17.7%. And here we are almost 40 seconds in. Stefan Matteau, former draft pick of the New Jersey Devils, which I remember when that pick was made. Of course, his father, Stéphane Matteau, was the one who scored the infamous goal in the Eastern Conference Finals back in 1994. Doc Emmerich with his classic Mato. Goal call.
John's front weaker there. Clayton's shot gets through the net. He's got no idea where that puck is.
Clayton slides it back. Here comes Brindley now as the second unit getting an opportunity. Brindley dumps it in. Straight chop off the seam in the dasher. Now it is Spolzel from the line with an offering.
Gotta clear it.
The zone left point. Nobel Ballouz has this pushed all the way back out to center. Brindley supporting Spolzel. Just 10 seconds now remaining on the power play for Cleveland. Spolzel slides it back. Brindley. Nobel Ballouz in the O-zone. Beats Ashan. Ashan back to Luka Nobel Ballouz.
Roman Ashan. He started the year with the Charlotte Checkers, believe it or not. He was a guy that was in training camp with the team. The Checkers opted to send him to Savannah, and he was scooped up on waivers by Cleveland. He was a guy that played with them last year and had a pretty darn good season. I don't know, he just couldn't come to terms in the offseason about what kind of deal they would land on, but he ended up in Charlotte fighting for a spot, didn't earn one right out of the gate, and he ended up getting scooped up by Cleveland. And I'm sure, if he had stayed in Savannah, if Cleveland didn't make an offer or something like that, I'm sure he would have been up with the Checkers considering all the injuries. He would have been one of those guys going back and forth like Riley Bezo, Josh Davies, Riley Hughes, so on and so forth. Checkers killed it off. Nice job. So we're talking a lot about the shots for the Checkers being 27. Can we talk about the shots for Cleveland being only 6? I'd love to talk to the goaltenders. Logic dictates that the fewer shots they see, the happier they would be. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I'm not saying that any goaltender wants to be bombarded with, 500 shots in a game. But can you get into a rhythm when you only see 3 shots a period? I really would love to know that. That looks like shot number 7. Because Drieger, the saves that he's made on the shots that he's seen, they haven't been very easy. I mean, there was a couple there where he really fought things off.
Zone net for Cleveland. Starts the breakout down to Pete Gaudette. Gaudette out through center. Leaned into his man. That was Bezo. Laborka across for Benning for Charlotte. At center ice. Nice job by McCown to force a turnover. Headman's the puck. Here's Grimaldi.
Partial break. Grimaldi. Ooh, Driggs. Oh, man, leaky faucet there. It was just kind of dripping.
Where that puck was, but he didn't know where it was. It was sneaking towards that goal line.
That was a second look for Rocco. I didn't even see that. It found it right away in stride there after he shot it. But he had 2 looks at it and it came parallel to the goal line. To the Cleveland zone. Close call. Long shot here, Dornfeld. Easy pickings for Graves. Reaches out, secures it. We'll take a break. 9:50.
All right. Look, we're past the midway mark of this game. 1-0 is the score. 9:50 left to go. You got to like how the Checkers are playing. They're currently out shooting Cleveland 4-1. It's 28-7 in that regard. The Checkers are 0 for 2 on the power play. If I could nitpick this game, that is the one thing that I'd say I'd like to see at least a straight number. Make them, 1 for 2, considering the penalty kill of Cleveland. It's okay. It's good, not great. That's the one area I would nitpick if I could. But right now, you have to be happy with a 1-0 score. You absolutely cannot be mad about that, no matter what. Oh, I think I've been... Jacob says, sometimes he thinks we're more likely to score on the penalty kill than the power play. I mean, look, let's take a look at the actual stats because I don't think you're very wrong about that. The Charlotte Checkers, they do have 41 power play goals this season, and they have 13 shorthanded goals. 13 shorthanded goals this season. So I don't think that they're more likely to score on the shorthanded. What's a nice feeling is that even though you've got a guy in the box, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are instantly just going to get on the defensive and you're not going to see any action for your team offensively in the attack, because we've seen the Checkers do that. It kind of keeps teams on their heels, and that kind of strong shorthanded attack makes them rethink their power play. They're not going to get too aggressive and get all their guys too deep in the zone because they know how quickly the Checkers can get behind them, and all of a sudden it's a breakaway. We've seen Giles do it. We've seen Asplund do it. We've seen Leonard do it. So, it forces them to maybe play a more conservative style, even having the man advantage. So it's certainly a skill that's nice to have and a threat that's nice to be in the back pocket that the Checkers have.
Set up by arm accounts back. Hard work by him. Tim talking over and send Ross over.
Gecko123 on YouTube. Greensboro is going to have an ECHL team. Yeah, absolutely. The Greensboro Gargoyles, who are owned by our ownership group and Zoyer Sports and Entertainment, same group that owns Savannah, Allen Americans, and a few other teams in the ECHL. They're adding to their portfolio with the Greensboro Gargoyles, which I'm excited. I haven't seen an ECHL game in person since, I would say, 2010. I went and I saw the Reading Royals play in Pennsylvania. So I would like to get to an ECHL game sooner rather than later. I know it sounds bad. Like, I'd love to get down to Savannah and see those guys. But of course, look, when we're playing, they're playing, so it's hard to get the schedules to line up. But I think when there's a team that's only an hour and a half away from Charlotte, I might be able to scoot on over there on a Saturday night or something if I don't have anything going on, and see how things are going there in Greensboro once they get that off the ground. Anne-Marie has a good comment on Facebook. I notice when we outshoot in lots of games, and I know you can't get pucks in the net without shooting, when does it come down to quality shots over quantity? The honest answer, never. Never. Simply because you never, ever, ever know what's going to happen. You might think it's a low percentage shot. Zach Dalpe is the picture. He's the poster boy for this. He will get up against the wall and just throw it in on goal. And at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt anything. You're not getting docked any points. Shooting percentage doesn't mean anything at the end of the day or the end of the year. So throwing something on goal, you never know what's going to happen. You catch a goaltender sleeping, it hits off someone's foot and it jumps over their shoulder. It'll never come down to quality over quantity. You want to just avoid getting into a situation where you have no creativity in the offensive end. You want to at least have some breakaways or some odd man advantages or some power rushes that get in. I think about how this goal was scored in tonight's game with Asplund wrapping around. It was a beautiful wraparound. He stuffed it, trying to stuff it in tight. Didn't get it, but it ricochets out to Leonard and he buries it home. That is creative. That is something that kept the puck cycling. Guys were in the right place at the right time, positioned properly. As long as you're doing that, you will take 10 shots from the wall for every one opportunity you get like that, because you never know. You never, ever know. Another good rush right there. They were in tight and they still have it. Jacob has a very good point. Except in 3-on-3 overtimes, absolutely quality matters. That is one of those where it's very similar for those of you who like football that goes into overtime. Whoever wins that face-off, it's the same thing. Whoever possesses the puck in overtime, that could decide your game. I can't remember if the Checkers put up this many shots against Cleveland the last time they played. No, they had 25 shots the last time they played Cleveland. Ken Appleby was in goal for that one. John Leonard had a goal in that contest. They lost 4-2. And then the night before, they had 31 shots. So with their next shot, they're going to tie their entire game total from the last time they played Cleveland back in October. That's unreal. Yeah, Emery, just to kind of wrap up that point, it was a really good question. You never want to take a low percentage shot when you have the opportunity. You got a high percentage chance. You don't want to ever sacrifice that high percentage chance and play scared and just take the low percentage long range shot. But any other time you can get a shot, take it. You never know. Trying to keep an eye on the rest of the league here. I'm seeing two teams now that have absolutely identified how the other team is playing, and they're looking for weak points. You know, this is like a doctor who's just poking around until it hurts. Both teams are doing the same thing. They're just poking. How about this? How about this? How about this? Until, they hit that nerve. And someone's going to break through here. If you're Charlotte, you have the advantage because obviously you have the 1-0 lead, but the next goal is your insurance goal, and that could be huge, especially as time dwindles down here with under 6 to play. What team would you guys like to play next season? I'd like to play the Wolves. Yeah, I love how we get the opportunity to play some unique teams every single year. This year was Iowa and Milwaukee. Last year was San Jose, San Diego. Was that this year? No, I think that was last year. Yeah, that was last year. It all blends together. But I love that we get to play some different teams. I'd love to see Coachella Valley, Tucson, some of those teams. Anybody that we haven't seen traditionally a lot. Any of the Western Conference teams, pretty much, and any of those North teams that maybe we don't see all the time. Like I don't believe we've played Belleville in my 3.5 seasons 4 with the team. I like playing new teams, and the reason we get to do that is because of the way the Charlotte Checkers schedule is lumped. Right, we're out here on a proverbial island in the sense that Cleveland is our closest opponent. I don't know if y'all knew that in terms of mileage. Then Hershey in second. It's just slightly closer to go to Ohio than it is to go up into Pennsylvania. They're very, very close in terms of just as the crow flies distance. They're very, very close. Because of that, teams have to spend 2 days here. Ooh, Greaves with a good stop there. And because of that, they're going to come down here for 2 games. It doesn't hurt that we have an awesome city, so teams are willing to do it, and we have a great airport, so teams can fly in. So, a team like Milwaukee, that was easy for them. They've got a great airport, and it's a good city there, so it's an easy swap to find a team that's willing to come and do that for 2 days. Same thing for Iowa, Des Moines, no problem there. So I would love to see the Chicago Wolves. I know the Checkers would love to get back. Oof, I thought Puljujärvi might have had his first as a Checker. I know guys like Trevor Carrick would probably love to go back to Rosemont and relive some of the memories of lifting the Calder Cup in that building there. So, yeah, I would love to see some of the – I love how we get to see some unique teams every single year. When you look at some of the other schedules, because, look, being out here on this proverbial island isn't always the easiest thing. But when you look at Lehigh Valley, Hershey, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, it feels like every day they're playing. One of those teams, 2 of those teams are playing each other because they're so close. They're only an hour and a half from each other in a triangle. Allentown up an hour and a half to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Wilkes-Barre Scranton west an hour and a half is Hershey. Hershey an hour and a half east is Allentown. So it's just they're constantly playing each other all the time. Same thing with the New York teams. Utica, Syracuse, you know, Rochester. Bam, bam, bam. They're all so tight. They play each other all the time because it's convenient and they can, you know, fit in midweek games and the other thing. I like that we get to see other teams and that it's a whole weekend event. I think it's awesome. And from a broadcasting side, I love having games back to back against the same team. Prep is easier, and you remember what happened the night before. You remember the numbers and the everything is just kind of fresh because you just saw this team. Having to memorize a whole roster worth of numbers, and then the very next night having to memorize a different roster of numbers, it's not always the easiest. Now, when you're Lehigh Valley, Hershey, or Wilkes-Barre, and you're playing basically the same two teams all the time, it's a little bit easier. Officially, more shots in this game than they had the last time they played Cleveland back in October, and we still have 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. Cleveland comes into this one. They lost their last three. And, of course, the Checkers were shut out at home against Hershey just the other day. So two teams with losses in their last game. For Cleveland, they're probably a little bit more hungry. You know, the Checkers, they've won 3 of their last 4. They're looking to make 4 of 5 here. And you can hear those boos that happened a couple minutes ago. Fans are frustrated. How long are you there before a game starts and after it ends? It depends on what. Depends. On Friday games, or I should take that back, on weekday games, I will be in the Coliseum at 6 a.m. Now, I'm not there the whole time, but I'm in there. There's a stat pack that we need to print for both sets of coaches and the officials. It's something that I prepare. We need to print that out. We need to have select copies of it set aside for the coaches and for the referees. So I get there early to print all that stuff out. I have a little bit of leeway on the weekends. I can get there at like 8, 9 o'clock because they come in a little bit later too. But then I go home. Once those are printed out, which takes about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes if I'm having problems with the printer. But I'll be there. I'll knock that out, half hour, 45 minutes, and I go home. And then I'll come back. I will actually come back suited up and ready to go for the broadcast anywhere. If it's a 7 o'clock game, somewhere around 4 o'clock. If it's a weekend, I find myself getting antsy at home. So like these games coming up this weekend, we have a 4 o'clock and a 1 o'clock. On the 1 o'clock game, I will go in the morning at like 8, 9 o'clock. I'll print the paperwork that I need to print, and I'll just stay there because it doesn't make sense for me to go home and then come back. I'll just stay there. I'll take some extra time to just sit in the arena somewhere and read through my notes, or I can always find something to do. For the 4 o'clock games, I'll probably go in around probably about noon because we always have our Checkers pregame live, which airs on all these same channels, by the way. We have that, which kicks off at, you know, if it's a 4 o'clock game, we go live at 2, which means I want to have all the stuff ready to go by 3. So I'll go in at noon, start building everything, start getting everything ready to go. So that's kind of, and it's anywhere from 3 to 5 hours before puck drop. How long am I there after the game lasts? Not quite as I'm not there 3 to 4 hours beyond it, but probably another hour, hour and a half. Let me put it to you this way. When you all leave the Coliseum and you're sitting in traffic, that traffic is long gone by the time I get in my car and I drive away. It's clear sailing. So it's usually about an hour and a half, give or take. It depends on if I decide to stay in the Coliseum and do the notes that I just told you that I print out every morning. Sometimes I'll just stay in the Coliseum while I have my laptop open and the game is fresh in my mind. I'll just go ahead and crank out those details real quick and then save it, because it becomes hard, you know, after a game like that to come home and then pull your laptop out of your bag and, like, you know, re-get in the mode. So sometimes I'll stay there, but more often than not, I'll head home because I'm hungry. I'm tired. If we win, it's really hard for me to get to sleep because the adrenaline is just through the roof. I'm sure you guys are the same way. After a big overtime win or something like that, the adrenaline's through the roof. So sometimes I try to use that in other productive ways.
Unfortunately, Mac Dalby, their captain, former Monsters captain, is dealing with an injury week to week, I'm told, but not here this time. The shot turned and fired by Fitz-Wolansky. It's stopped by Leonard Drieger. The puck comes back to the high slot. The point is, this is a team with a lot of options and many that are hurt right now, too, in addition to what they've got on display. Is Scoop, Brindley, Fitz-Wolansky, and others are now getting acquainted along the wall.
Mike Betting in there? Is that who that is? All right, let's get Riley Bezo out. Come on. 39 seconds left to go in the period. Let's show him who's boss.
Yeah, it's just what the monster need right now.
Skoog is not happy.
A little energy, a little emotion into this one for themselves and with the fans. Brindley and Fitz-Wolansky, the two ones in the middle of it.
Fun fact, Wilmer Skoog was the very first player who I ever called games for at two different levels. Wilmer Skoog, formerly of the Minot Minotauros. They are a team in the North American Hockey League, which is junior hockey. They would play us with the Austin Bruins. We were in the same division. It's Austin, Minnesota. Minot is in North Dakota. And Wilmer Skoog, I remember him playing in juniors. He went all through, by the time he landed here in Charlotte, he had gone through his collegiate career at Boston, and I worked my way out of Austin. And so he was the first player I ever called at two different levels, which was really cool. CJ Smith is the first player that I've ever called games for that also played for the Austin Bruins after I was there. And I say after I was there because my 1 year in Mississippi, my career went 1 year in the SPHL with Mississippi, 3 years in the NAHL with Austin, and now 4 years here in Charlotte. My 1 year in Mississippi, there was an opponent in our division, the Huntsville Havoc. We were chatting with Steve, who was on the call earlier, and their goaltender that year was a gentleman by the name of Keegan Asmundson. He was an Austin Bruin at one point in his career, and I called his games before I got to Austin. I get to Austin, and then he comes on board as an assistant coach. So that was really cool. Very small world moment. Keegan was the goaltender of record that knocked my team out of the playoffs, and I had a sworn hatred for him as I was just absolute no way. How could this guy do this to us? And then I had to face him in person, but he's a great friend to this day. One of the tallest people I've ever met at 6'6". Not the tallest goaltender though. Thank you, Cooper Black. But yeah, he that's always a fun story. You get a lot of good stories in sports. Players move, broadcasters move, coaches move, front office staff moves. We talked with Zach Robinson earlier, who him and I were in Mississippi together for that 1 year, and all of a sudden we're both in the AHL now after some time. He's with Hershey, I'm here. And you get to know people, and you get to you really make some good connections, and there's some good solid people, which I would imagine it's the same way for y'all in your industry, whether whatever it is that you do. If you're a nurse, if you're a lawyer, you come across people at different conventions and different places, and you get to know folks. It's a lot of fun. Anne-Marie coming in clutch in the chat. Savannah 3-3. I like it. I like it. All right. Intermission time, 1-0. So I don't know, Ed Curry, are you still hanging out with us, or did you jump ship? If you're still here, my man, 4-1. I don't know. I don't know that that's looking likely. And honestly, even if we have a big period, I don't think Anne-Marie's 3-2 is going to necessarily stand up. Jacob, I don't want to talk about you picking against the Charlotte Checkers, so we're not going to bring that up. Attendance has been great lately. It's been a slow ramp up. Has it been a slow ramp up or something that just started happening and you think we could see sell out the season and or playoffs? Honestly, it's a great observation. Obviously, the attendance has been fantastic, and that is a 1,000% a testament to you guys spreading the word. You guys coming in, just spread the word. We're a hockey team in a southern market, and not just any southern market, a southern market that has a professional basketball team and an NFL team, not to mention a minor league hockey team, minor league rugby, minor league soccer, lacrosse. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other ones. Kevin Weaker's not on the chat today. He's at one of those games. He would tell us all. So sometimes we get overlooked and we get forgotten. I know today the Worth Grill. I don't know if y'all saw that. I saw the article. I think WCNC had posted it on Facebook. They had their sign was attacking the Hornets, and I immediately retweeted. Reminder: the Checkers were the last team to bring a championship to the city. So we get forgotten. So we truly appreciate everything you guys do, the efforts you make to come out, and we hope that we could reward you with value. That it's a good, solid game. That's the easy part for us. We know it's hockey. We don't have to necessarily do a lot for you to have a good time because the game by nature is going to be fun. But we absolutely still want to give you the best we can give you. I think the second half of the season traditionally is always busier for the Checkers than the first half. I think because of the holidays that kind of break the season up right in half. Once the holidays kind of get through, people start getting a little antsy, especially with the cold weather, like kind of wanting to get out of the house, a little bit of cabin fever. You also talk about as bad as they've been lately, once the Panthers season is done, that frees up that's why a lot of Sunday games for the Checkers happen in the second half of the year, because it's just a little bit more convenient. We don't have to go head to head with them. I just think that it's been a culmination of word getting out from you guys, word getting out from people who are just having a great time, the marketing team, what Sean Lynch, the VP, and his ticketing staff does, treating people right, being as organized as possible. Just what they do, their work cannot go understated, and they're a big reason to it. But honestly, it's you guys driving the force, you guys, the fans. That's why. And look, promos don't hurt. I mean, we got another dollar beer night coming up, gives us a good chance to talk about what's coming up. Dollar beer night coming up on Wednesday. Fairfield Inn and Suites family night. You can save 40% off of tickets when you order 4 or more. College night presented by Hendrick Acura, which is a great deal for anyone that's got a college email address. You're going to get best available seats. And what does best available mean in Bojangles? Geez, you could come up and be all the way up directly below me, and you still got one of the best seats in the house. I love that about Bojangles Coliseum. There's not a bad spot in the arena. So we've got a lot of good stuff there. And then, of course, we have International Women's Day, which is coming up on the 8th. I'm really excited about that, as we get to shine the light on some of the ladies in our front office. We're going to have a special guest color analyst with me in the second period. I'm not going to spoil who that's going to be, but she will join me up in the booth. We're going to have a special guest co-host as part of our Checkers pregame live on that Saturday. I'm not going to spoil who that's going to be. We're going to probably have an interview or two from a couple of ladies in the front office as well, who are instrumental into the success of the team as we celebrate women everywhere as part of International Women's Day. So I do think, the promos have been fun and cool when you talk about River Rats and that throwback. There was a little bit of, uptick in terms of interest when those jerseys came out, for better or for worse. There was some people didn't like the idea, but it is what it is. You're never going to please everybody. I learned that lesson a long time ago. So I just think right now it's the perfect storm of being a great value, having great fans that provide an amazing atmosphere, because it's like and I mean this in the most positive way, it's like a disease. It's like when one person is having a great time, they tell another person who tells another person, and all of a sudden this thing just goes and goes and grows, and it's because of y'all. Absolutely because of y'all. Yeah, Anne Marie puts a great point too. I think the Panthers winning the cup has helped the numbers as well. Yeah, I think that certainly helps. I know that there's still a little bit of fondness for the Carolina Hurricanes in our area, which makes total sense. But I do think that when, even the biggest of naysayers go, I'm not going to a Checkers game because they're not with the Hurricanes anymore. Well, when they see that the Panthers win the cup, then all of a sudden they get curious, right? They're like, well, all right, well, it looks like the Panthers are pretty good. Who's in their farm system? Who's going to be coming up, after that? I think that is a good point. Emery, let me know. I can get you in contact with the folks who handle that. So if that's something that you're truly interested in, definitely let me know. Send me a message. I'll get you in contact with the right folks who can start talking to you about what opportunities there are in terms of corporate sponsorship to see your company all over the Coliseum and beyond. So absolutely, maybe a radio sponsorship. Just throwing that out there. We'd love to have you. But if that's something that you're interested in, definitely let us know. I'd be more than happy. Ed, you're back. I don't, or maybe you've been here the whole time. I'm not quite sure, but I'm not thinking 4-1 is going to be the final here, unless I don't know, unless some kind of fire breaks out on both these teams' behalves. But we'll see. Shots on goal, boy. Jack Greaves, 32 saves. I don't think he's going to be playing tomorrow night. But we'll probably we'll end up most likely seeing their other goaltender tomorrow night. As much as Cleveland does like to ride Greaves a little bit more, there's not too many teams that still do that. When you look at the Checkers, we rotate in 3 goaltenders pretty consistently. Some teams are pretty much 2 goaltenders rotating A1B. Zach Sawchenko is the backup for Cleveland. He's played in 19 games this year. When you compare Jet Greaves, including tonight, he's played in 32 games this year. So it's not exactly a 1-to-1 split. And I would imagine that going into this game, they might have thought about playing Greaves in back-to-back nights. But even as well as Greaves has played so far, you got to figure the Checkers are probably going to get over 40 shots in this game. They only need 7 more to do it. That's not outlandish to think that they could get 7 shots in a period. It's still a busy night for him. I think he's going to get the night off, and Sawchenko will probably end up getting the nod tomorrow. And, Sawchenko, I believe, played pretty darn well in his last game, his last outing. Yeah, he made 38 saves on 40 shots. He did end up losing in overtime, but still, when you can have a 1.95 goals against average in a game, you're doing pretty good. So I would think that the Monsters are comfortable with turning the reins over tomorrow to Zach Sawchenko. But that brings me to another point. 40 shots on goal in that game. And the Checkers are likely to break 40. That's back-to-back games where this Monsters defense has allowed over 40 shots. And just something, if I'm a head coach, I'm kind of taking a look at why am I giving up so many opportunities. Trent Vogelhuber is the head coach for the Cleveland Monsters. So, I wonder how much he's thinking about that. But when your goaltenders, right now, 77 shots over the last 2 games, they've only given up 3 goals. That's pretty good. You can't really complain about that. I know I wouldn't. Absolutely not. Ed doubling down, huh? 4-1. I like it. I hope you're right. No, I take that back. I hope you're wrong. I want to see Drieger get the shutout. So, and don't give me any of this broadcasters jinx stuff. It's not real. It's another one of those hills that I'll die on. When I am calling a game, you won't hear me say the S word. It's just, I do it out of respect for the players because I know they believe in the broadcasters jinx. I'm not broadcasting this game. I'm live streaming it, so it's different. I'm allowed to say the S word, but we'll see. We'll absolutely. 4-0. Exactly, Ed. Exactly right. I hope. It's my turn to ask a question. What's y'all's favorite thing about coming to Bojangles Coliseum? What gets you pumped up to come to a game, and what gets you ready to go? I we have some awesome stuff that happens. What is it for you guys that absolutely, when you wake up on a Saturday morning or you wake up on a Tuesday and you go to work for the whole day and you're just thinking about the Checkers game that night, what is it about the Checkers game that you love that really gets things going? I want to hear from you guys. What is the AHL record for most shutouts in a season? Is it possible for us? I think are you asking for a team? I know right now Ken Appleby with 5 shutouts on the year. That is tied for the second most in Checkers history in a single season. But I think you're asking for a whole team. What's the most? I have to dig into the AHL guide and record book for that one. That's a good question. Regular season record book. Let's see. Most games tied. Most scoreless ties. Most games won all time. Providence Bruins had 20 shutouts in one season back in 2013-14. So that is the record. Forgive me. That is not the record. That is not the record. I don't know the difference between shutouts and shootouts. My apologies. Most shutouts, one season, 17, done twice back in 2003, 2004, in an 80-game season, the Hartford Wolfpack, and 2003, 2004 as well, the Portland Pirates. So 17 is the number. 17 is also the number for the most times a team has been shut out in a year. Anything's possible. I don't think the Checkers are going to get to 17 if I had to put money on it, but so I was asking you guys what really gets you excited. The crowd, the siren, the beer from Amory. Honestly, can't go wrong with those 3 things. Ed, my dad took me there as a kid. The Bojangles Coliseum is unbelievable. It's so cool. And for you guys to have grown up in this area and have memories there with your family and, your parents, and now Ed, I know you have a daughter and you bring her to games and she's a staple around the Coliseum. That's super cool. Grateful Dead and Soundgarden. Well, I know what kind of music you like to listen to. Jacob, he likes the fact he can go into Bojangles Coliseum and just not hold anything at all, just go crazy. Yeah, be yourself, man. Have a great time. Used to go to the old SHL Checkers games when he was a kid, Ray. Yeah, that's fun. That's the kind of stuff. It's cool. You don't see. I know, on the heels of River Rat Night that we just had last night, these must have been the thoughts. I don't want to put words in his mouth or try to say that I think the same way he does. But when Mr. Khan bought the team and moved them down here, he had to have been thinking about folks like y'all who watch the SHL Checkers, who watch the ECHL Checkers, and, to bring that name back so you guys can experience a higher level, the highest level of hockey that's ever played here in the Queen City under that Checker banner. I'm sure that played a part. I would guess, I would put my money that played a big part on naming the team Checkers. I'm not the biggest professional wrestling fan, so when I see, mentions of Ric Flair, obviously I know who he is, but I've never really been the biggest fan. of that stuff. But it's really cool the amount of events that the CRVA puts on, from comedy shows to um, music acts to obviously hockey games. We see monster trucks sometimes. We see Disney on Ice. We see all kinds of cool stuff. Um, they really do a good job. They really do. Third period, getting ready to start.
Someone who's, Vince, he's that leader, veteran guy who's stepped up, scored a goal last game, and he's been in and around some opportunities.
Who's got the next goal? Who's got the next goal? I think the Checkers defense is stout enough that they're going to hold Cleveland here. So I think the game-winning goal is going to belong to John Leonard. But who's got the next goal?
So I think whether he's going to, have the primary assist or put it into the net himself, he's going to be involved. And, so far today, he's been responsible for some of the best chances.
Yeah, he has. That's some nice looks.
Kyle Criscolo, I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. He has a knack for that this year. I believe he's near the top of the team stats in game-winning goals. I want to say he has 4, so I will, and then I'll check the stats. We'll see if I was right.
And in white, it's the Charlotte Checkers from right to left, who must feel in some way, shape, or form that they have deserved better on the scoreboard tonight, given the way
Kyle Criscolo has 4. He leads the team, tied with John Leonard. So it looks like John Leonard is probably going to get that here tonight, unless Cleveland ties this game, and then Criscolo gets the game winner. But we might have 5 game-winning goals for Leonard after this one. Aiden McDonough is in third, by the way, with 3. Goes to show you how hot of a start he was on. Such a shame that he will not be playing for the rest of the year. He played in 16 games this year, but he had 16 points. And another one of those diamonds in the rough that the Charlotte Checkers and the Florida Panthers were able to find at the AHL level for this team. So what do you think the Checkers do here? They're up 1-0. Do you think that they stick to their guns and go attack? Or do you think they play it smart like a chess game and just kind of drain the clock? And I don't want to call it a prevent defense, but for lack of a better term, just kind of play smart defensively and a lot of clears. Do you think they hang on to the 1-0, or do you think they go after it hard? I think they're going to go after it hard, but don't let me sway your opinion. Kierstead, you think Jacob? You think Kierstead? He deserves it. I know he's a stay-at-home defenseman, and the offensive side is definitely not something that he focuses his game on. But boy, he's been jumping up into the rush. He's been getting involved, and he's such a good player for this team. I'd love to see that happen. Sordif. Lily says Leonard. Okay, so you think Leonard number 2? All right, that'd be pretty cool. Emery thinks they're going to play smart. Ray thinks they're going to go after the 2-0 lead. And Ed Curry was probably the most spot-on answer, which is play their game. And I guarantee you that was the message in the locker room from head coach Kinnear and assistant coach Sanguinetti. Right now they're putting some good pressure. Ooh, good hit there. I would have loved to have seen CJ Smith get one there. Pugliarvi and Smith are the guys who I'm waiting every single game. I want to see them get their first as a Checker. Jacob, and talking about Kierstead pushing up, and especially in the past month, that just goes back to what we were talking about way back in the first period, is how well this team communicates. And when defense are pinching up, when they're getting below the hashes, the forwards rotating back and covering for them.
Gabriel working on him, throws his hands in the air, prevent the holding call. He succeeded in doing so. Here's Kieran, left wall, shot pass off the corner board. Yarby back out for Carrick, whose shot was blocked by Bowie. Curls almost out to the neutral zone. Thrown back onto the stick is sort of. Turns through pressure. Garrett left point with a shot that was tipped wide by Bogliardi. Now it is Zaborka's turn, and Matteau puts him on his wallet in the corner as the puck bounces out high slot for McCown. Goes off the wall, doing something off Garrett's elbow. Tagging in center was Couliard.
Skoog has been hot all game here.
Oliver Couliard shoved by Clayton as he'll be stapled up. Now Bowie working on Bezo or vice versa. Puck is loose between the skates there at Clayton and McCown, able to poke it free. Now it's over for Kierstead. Long sustained trip into the ozone here for Charlotte. Been doing it all night. Monsters sent all the way down. It's icing, and those exhausted players have to stay out there.
Charlotte does such a good job of
Yeah, Tony Brown just made a really good point here that the Checkers with a long, sustained trip into the ozone, as he put it, the Checkers really keeping the pedal to the metal there, and with an icing call, as he alluded to, they can't change. So get some fresh legs out there. Looks like Asplin's going to step in to take the draw. This is an opportunity where you can strike and strike quickly.
Reeves, though, continues to do heavy lifting, up to 35 saves in the game. Monsters still down just one zip, though.
I know Skoog's production has definitely been down, but he seems much more comfortable, to your point, Anne-Marie, here in his second year.
Bounces all the way across, right?
I hesitate to call it a sophomore slump. I know he's not lighting the lamp as much as he has in the past, but other areas of his game have completely gotten better. Ooh, 2-on-1 chance. Come on.
Circle Leonard had Asplin, but the centering feet denied and picked up by Clayton. So backhanded forward to center.
Nice job by Cole Clayton reading that pass, going across, and signals line up to block it up.
And behind the Monsters goal line, it's Clayton again. Up to Butler. Butler steps through the neutral zone. Slides forward. Tracks it down as it bounces back.
Most shots in a game this year is 49. I don't know if the Checkers are going to get 13 shots here in 16 minutes, but you never know.
Forward, watch out. Here's Smith.
Smith, come on, pull it. Oh, throws on the brakes. Good idea.
In their own zone. Hunt forces Smith to the corner. Nice angle taken by those defenders, heading back for the post, not chasing the puck carrier. Here's now Gaudette back across the left circle for Pearson.
All right, here's a tough question for y'all. If you had to root for another team, you could not root for the Charlotte Checkers. Who would you root for in the American Hockey League? It's a good question. I like asking people who their second favorite teams are, so to speak.
Back, and Gabriel tried to drag the foot, but lateral on the entry for Grimaldi turns into offset.
Coach Bohuber in this intermission kind of threw some of the lines in the blender, some new combinations for the Monsters, just trying to look for any sort of spark here in this third period.
Here's Skolzo with that heavy shot. Kierstead, not sure precisely where it got him, but right in the midsection. 15:25 left in the game. 11 shots in the game for Cleveland. 4 in the first, 6 in the second. A quarter of the way through the third, they've had 1 so far. 36 for the Checkers. Monsters still right within distance here. As the long feed out of the defensive zone for Charlotte. No icing here. Reese will fire this pass right up to Grimaldi.
If you're wondering what the fewest shots in a game is this season, it's 12. Way back in October against Bridgeport. I think the Monsters are going to likely break that. They look for the wraparound. Drieger solid there on that post. And Kierstead. Feisty. Look at him stepping in there to trying to separate Sordiff.
Finding the streak, Pearson coming out the ice, and Gambrell almost finished that off. Like you said, Tom, that 5-hole was open for like a split second, and puck just rattled around there.
Such a valuable player, doesn't get sort of the attention I think he deserves for his impact on the team this year. An old pro with lots of NHL experience.
Ooh, good pad stop. Ooh, especially considering it kind of rolled off the pad on the left leg and then looked like it might have been squeaking 5-hole there, but a great stop by Drieger. Sometimes those are the hardest saves to make because it's really tough. You know, when you're wearing those big chest and arm protectors and you're down and you're trying to look directly down at the ice, your vision is blocked. So if it's really far underneath you, you might not have any idea where. Good save by Drieger. You got to kind of go by feel. And that was a good stop. Grand Rapids, good choice, Gecko 123. The Grand Rapids Griffins, I think they, I love their logo. I think that's so cool. And the Griffin, the idea of a Griffin, it's just it's much like the Greensboro Gargoyles, mythical in nature and just not the Tigers or, the Bruins, these very commonplace names where you can pick a multitude of colleges, a multitude of pro teams that all have that name. Yeah, I like the Griffins. That's a great answer. Anybody else got any other teams? Jacob likes the Gulls. They seem fun, though they weren't very good the past few years. Another stop there by Drieger. Oh, man, boy, he is being tested down low. Look at all the white, for those of you watching on AHL TV, look at all the white sweaters around that goaltender. That is exactly what you like to see. Guys in there helping their man out, trying to stuff that puck underneath them. Great teamwork by the Checkers D. Let's see who else we got. So April likes Syracuse. Not bad. Lucas Favali, voice of the Syracuse Crunch. Great guy. My predecessor in Mississippi, actually, by a few years. Hartford, because their goalies are beasts. I don't know how I feel about Anne-Marie picking a team in our division. I don't know if I like that. That's all right. We'll let you have it. Jeremy Weaver says Grand Rapids is our second team. I would say second based on the goalies. I love Joey DeCourt at Coachella. Yep. Magnus Hellberg with Texas, Toronto Marlies. Good. Those are good teams. I like Texas a lot. Ooh, we got ourselves a scrum. Somebody threw gloves, and as Tony alluded to, downtown Tony Brown with the call there on AHL TV, only one person threw their gloves. Let's see what happens here. I mean, how many penalties are we get? Anybody going to get a power play? If anything, I think Cleveland will come away with the man advantage. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Thanks again, y'all, for joining us. This was a fun night for me. Good way to spend a Friday. I appreciate you all spending some time with me and listening to my ramblings. Believe you me, I can go on and on. I know my fiance Sarah is very excited that I'm talking to you all and not talking her ear off. She gets that every other night of the week. Anybody got an update on the Ghost Pirates? What's going on with them? I think it was tied last time we chatted. Is it still 3-3? I think it was 3-3. My memory is about as good as my math skills. Not. Yeah, so Cleveland is going to get the power play here. Again, this is one of those areas, going back to, I think, Jacob, you were the one that made the point that it feels like the Checkers are going to score more often on the kill than they are on the power play itself. This is one of those times where you're thankful for the way your kill is, because you're going to force Cleveland into playing a game knowing how deadly you are on the PK.
Chopped up to the right point. Canazgo has it bounce over his stick. Kicks Walansky deep away.
Oh, I lost the feed. Anybody else lose the feed? Oh, it's back.
Back to Canazgo. Quarterback is he defeats McToe towards the net. Partially blocked was that shot pass. Gambrell knocked down. Back to Canazgo. Hands off for
Struggling right now. Stream is struggling a little bit.
blue line. Fitzmalinski lurks in the left circle. Dribbling for McToe in the corner. McToe all the way back out. Canazgo across Grimaldi's got it on the hash.
If anything happens in that Savannah game, let us know. Throw it in the chat. Counting on y'all to watch that game.
This is Grimaldi. Pass to Asplin. Beats Fitzmalinski down deep. Bill floated back out high. Canazgo right circle. McToe one-timer, and it's off Megna.
Jacob Megna. That's a guy that I don't think we talk about enough. Sorry that he's not a short king. He's actually quite large. But he's been playing such solid defense, a good veteran presence to have on that blue line. I mean, the Checkers blue line is just a perfect combination of veterans and young guys, right? Mike Benning is pretty much the only guy that's like, he's a second-year guy. Everybody else is either a rookie or long in the tooth. Your Carricks, your Megnas, Kierstead. I mean, Kierstead's been in the league now 4 years. The Checkers blue line is set up for smart, intelligent play. And Megna fits that mold perfectly. Another great addition in the offseason. You know, I'm not sure who the most superstitious player is on the team. Spencer Knight is more, I don't know if it's superstitious for him. I think it's more of routine and what makes him feel comfortable. It makes him feel in the zone. Everybody's a little bit different. Some guys will tell you that they're not. Some guys will tell you that they are. I can tell you that I'm not a particularly superstitious person, but much like Spencer Knight, I like to do things in the same order. Not because I feel that it's going to affect the outcome, but because I feel more prepared that way. I expect it. You know, my prep is always the same. I get there around the same time. I try to do things in a certain order because then I know mentally I've checked everything off the list. So I don't know. I'm not sure who the most superstitious is. I don't see enough to notice. Yeah, Spencer does have OCD, which is something that he's been very vocal about his struggles and his recovery to get back. And we were so thankful to have him and help him work through that, as he's certainly earned his spot at the NHL like we all knew he would. So that is definitely his routine and his rhythm. So the Checkers kill it.
All the way down into his own zone to scoop in the slot. Saved by Graves. Picked up by Gaudette. Monsters want to push. Here comes Jake Gaudette forward. Links it to his left. But a good stick and a tight gap there from Hoborka. Turned into an offside against Cleveland. More pushing and shoving at center after the whistle. 11:09 remains.
All right, so they're going to let Clayton out of the box, but it looks like Carrick is staying. I didn't pull up the official game sheet to find out what's up with that. Officially, Trevor Carrick, he got a double minor for roughing. So Carrick got one roughing penalty and then got a second. Wilmer Skoog served the first, so he's out of the box with Clayton, and Carrick is still in there until the next stoppage.
Zone. Takes it away from Pearson. Now centered by Grimaldi. It was off the stick of Gambrell, but picked up by Charlotte. They've got a 3-on-2. Here's Smith. Left wing into his own zone. Centers. And that was through the blue paint without incident. Cleveland's Pearson has a pass over the stick of Grimaldi. Little misconnections like that can add up. Forward Chris Colo, chased by Canazgo. Smith met along the wall. Hard hit delivered by Gambrell. Bouillardi staggered by that. Cleveland beats Sposal. Elevate all the way to the offensive blue line, past the outstretched stick of Gambrell. All alone at center. Sends deep. Clayton's going to retrieve.
Yeah, the Checkers are playing, I don't want to say they're playing it safe, but, they're getting to the offensive blue line. They're dumping it in. They're giving chase. They're still putting pressure to try and get some turnovers like this and get some shots in on goal.
10-16 left in this
So I like what they're doing. I absolutely like what they're doing. They're not doing anything that's so risky that ultimately they, hurt themselves, but also at the end of the day, they're still keeping up enough pressure so that they're not completely being pushed back on their heels. This is fantastic. I love the way that they're executing here. Okuliar's now out there with Bezo. Let's see if Bezo tries to mix it up. It looks like that the fourth line here for the Checkers is going up against the second line of Cleveland, so that's something to keep an eye on. Del Bel Baluz is one of their top scorers, so we'll see.
All the way back into the Charlotte zone. 10:01 to play in this third period. Still 1-0. Hey fans, get the family out of your house and into Rocket Arena for Matinee Monsters Hockey every weekend afternoon games at Castaway Bay Family Day with family-friendly start times and $7.50 Monster Kids meals. Check out the Monsters' entire promotional schedule by visiting clevelandmonsters.com.
Checkers have been winning a lot of draws in tonight's game, which is pretty crucial, especially when you're in a spot like this. Okuliar falling down, plays it back. The Checkers can kick it out to center, and even the Monsters' control here in the neutral zone, it allows the Checkers a chance to reset and not have to fight off attack right away. Soft one in on Drieger. He makes the stop as expected. Jacob, not a lot of icing in the second two periods. Boy, the first 5 minutes of this game took 8 years, I swear. Oh, good feed for Steves. Come on. Good look there from Okuliar. Shot 38 now. What do I do during the offseason? I'm glad you put it in quotes because there truly is no offseason. I get ready for the upcoming year. Now, there's only so much that I can do because I don't know what the roster is going to look like. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like until the schedule comes out. There's only so much I can do, but that's my opportunity to revamp my procedures, my preparation, my schedule, the things that I do. I try to analyze one thing that I would like to improve for the upcoming year, and take on one big project. And I work the entire off season to do that. This past off season, I worked on trying to get Checkers pregame live booted up, getting all the equipment and all the materials we needed for that, stuff like that. So this coming off season, I'm gonna get married this coming off season, so hopefully that doesn't take up too much of my time. Don't let my fiance hear you say that, but. I'll take a look at this past year and what do I want to change? What would I like to do? I usually use the off season to look at improvements, areas to improve. That's pretty much what I'm doing. Jacob, you're right. Talking about, you said that's what we get for saying we haven't had a double minor in a while. Yes, but technically those were two 2-minute penalties that had to be served at the same time. It's not like it's not a true double minor. It is two traditional minors, not a double minor like you would get with high sticking where you draw blood, where it's 4 consecutive. So it's not a double minor. I might have called it a double minor because it's a double minor penalty. But if we're going to split hairs. Thank you all. Thank you. So it's been a 2-year-long engagement, so we're certainly ready.
The offensive zone. Sent it down low, came back towards him. Boston's Nick wants to pick it up. And is there a penalty being called here? No. Hand pass, perhaps, for Cleveland. Because the shot, I think he was trying to pick up his stick, that they ruled that he pushed the puck, and the Monsters fired up. The draw comes outside.
Wow, Madison Bowie was really upset there about a whistle. I don't know that I've ever seen a guy slam a stick like that after a whistle.
At least it's not a penalty. So here it comes. Here is a face-off from McCown that's pulled away from him by Rasmus Asplund. Now it's across, tossed by Kierstead forward. Third back, and in fact into the Cleveland bench. We'll have a face-off inside Monster zone. 8:53 left in regulation. 1-0 lead for the Charlotte Checkers. have to look it up, but I don't think the Monsters have given up 40 shots in a game in back-to-back games this season, but they're 2 shots away
Told you.
for the Checkers from doing that. It's officially become a trend.
Only 5 shots on goal, though, for Charlotte here in the third period. And that tends to be the trend when they do have the lead. Because, again, they don't go full tilt in the offensive end. They don't shy away from it, but they don't go full tilt.
Following point across the ice was McCown. He goes out of the reach of Gaudette and all the way down.
I'm thinking this might be a 2-0 final with an empty netter. Just throwing that out there.
Under 9 to go in the third period.
Very similar game to what we saw against Hershey in terms of not a lot of room to move, low scoring, maybe the same final, except the Checkers are coming out on top this time, which we'll take that every time.
Gaudette on the face-off again. Reeves watches from the left side of his crease. One to Canasco in the corner. Pushed up against the wall by Giles for Charlotte. Bouncing out of the fray there. It finds McCown in the right circle. McCown turns up.
Are there any former Checkers that I would like to see play in person? That's a good question. You know, I've had the chance to see a lot of them. You know, when you talk about guys like Warren Fogle and you know, that's a really good question. I think Carrick was probably up there near the list until this year. Thankfully, I've gotten to see Carrick, I've gotten to see Nash, I've gotten to see Dalpy. Like all these guys that are coming back for stint number 2, you know, that have been legends around the area. Maybe Michael Jordan. I think I would have liked to see him play. That would have been pretty neat. Nedeljkovic. Alex Nedeljkovic. I've never seen him play in person, even at the NHL level. I may have seen him in Lehigh Valley if we played the Checkers the year I was an intern, but I certainly don't remember it. So I honestly, I would probably say Nedeljkovic. That's a great question, Michael.
Back again towards his own blue line, connects with Grimaldi into the O-zone. Chips one there to Pearson. Pearson at the end of a long shift goal. Out at center, Tobias Bjornfoot. Advance for Lockwood. Bowie's got it now for Cleveland. Neutral zone for Grimaldi. Spins a pass ahead towards Pearson.
Question is,
Pearson's going to rush off the ice now.
when is Cleveland going to pull their netminder? Are they going to do it early? I'm not sure what school Vogel Huber comes from in terms of Cleveland's head coach. Does he like to pull his guys early, or is he more conservative and wait until 2 minutes or maybe even under the 2-minute mark, or does he go early with like the 3.5-minute mark?
Throws it up the right wing boards. Nick Smolanski grabbed it there. Swept away from Kierstead by Brindley, but it's right back off the end glass in the Cleveland zone. Breeds again. Hands off to Madison Bauer. This time connects with Delbel Blues. His feet are sent out by Kierstead. Brindley, though, perseveres. Beats the front of the net where Delbel Blues was streaking. Now back to him. Goes to the back door. And it's punched just wide by Brindley as Carrick influenced that would-be shot.
Couple great looks for the Monsters there. Delbel Blues fires that across and can't come back open.
Smolanski was hit there atop the circle, fed it back to Canasco behind the net now. 6 minutes remain in the game. Monsters down just 1-0. Cleveland out of their own zone. Gaudette across the offensive blue line. It's past Carrick. Gaudette tries to turn.
Cleveland has been spending much more time in the offensive end here in this third period. You can see, obviously, ratchet up the offense, right? They need to get back into this game.
Shot free before the puck's tipped to the corner. Butler out for Dumaine left point. Dumaine uses the kick plate to beat Volzel, who joins the party from the right point. Tried to tuck one in front to Gaudette, who's lurking at the top of the crease. Puck now dug loose by Cam Butler. Butler along the far boards to Gaudette, left point. He's covering, now slides it down low for Dumaine. Jordan Dumaine in front, Butler! Oh my goodness!
Woo!
Corner.
Great chip by this fourth line. Dumaine is a nice crafty pass to Butler, cutting through to the top of the crease.
Oh no, and now Butler gets a tripping call on Giles for trying to make a play on the puck. This time of night, the fans and Cam Butler completely in that decision. It boggles the mind. We'll take a break when we come back.
Cleveland's really not happy about a textbook trip there, huh?
Nothing with the Checkers in front late in the third.
Whew, Butler's really not happy. We get a good look here. Oh, no, of course not. They're not going to show the penalty. They'll show the partial scoring chance. Oh, maybe they will. Yeah, oh, come on. Absolutely a trip. His stick is between the guy's legs and then he pulls up. Come on. Look, I'm not a homer, right? Like, I will be the first one to tell you that I can't do what these referees do. I'm not that good. My eyesight's not that good. They're fantastic. So I try to lay off the refs as much as I possibly can. That's for you guys to get on their case. But what are we talking about here? That was a great penalty call. I mean, that was textbook. Jacob says he's not liking the vibe of the last few minutes. Look, to be honest with you, I hear you. I feel you. But this is just part of weathering the storm, right? I think this power play is going to change things a little bit here. Even if the Checkers don't score on the power play, it's going to dwindle the clock down to 3:15 by the time that they get Butler back. It's going to give the Checkers the chance to tilt the ice back in their favor. And now all of a sudden, if you're Cleveland, you're thinking, okay, kill this, have just a little bit more than 3 minutes. So we'll probably pull our goaltender maybe 45 seconds to a minute after our guy gets out of the box, depending on how, the puck falls in the on the rink and just how they go about it, doing it that way. So I think this is a huge chance here.
And so now it's the Monsters in front of him that are going to have to get the job done, and they'll do so down a skater for 2 minutes. There's power play for the Checkers, presented by Ancient Sun Martial Arts Premier Martial Arts School. Visit ancientsun.net for more info and to sign up for your free lesson today. The Checkers 0 for 2 in the power play. This is their third attempt, and Cleveland's got to kill it off. 1-0 Checkers. Smith feed across.
I'm not sure what Smith was seeing there in the right corner to feed that through a couple of legs, but if you're Charlotte, you're fine with this. I know the puck's not moving, and I know you're only up 1 goal, and traditionally on a power play, you want to get that puck moving again, but again, you're in the lead here. You can afford it being tied up in the corner.
Still, this puck thrown back left point. High stick there on Smith, getting a drive, and that blocked away as Gambrell will clear. Monsters got a break there. Brad Smith did take one right in the mouth. Yeah, they did.
Let's see if Soref can turn the corner here maybe and just jump up into the zone.
Off to Smith left wing. Blows a tire. Leaping over him is Clayton with a great pass ahead. It's a shot.
Breakaway chance.
A shot to the backhand. He scores! A short-handed goal. Roman Sean, and we get a new hockey game with 4:10 to play.
Roman Sean brings this place to life. First it's Cole Clayton winning the battle on the wall, doing the high jump to get to that puck. Finding Roman Sean streaking down.
I have no words, guys. No words. Trevor Carrick came back on defense, tried to tangle him up a little bit, wasn't enough. And he pulls Drieger out of position, slides it under his leg. Okay, so now I'll tell you something. Insider info into what goes on in a broadcaster's mind. Now all of a sudden, let's say we're at home, right? And the Checkers just gave up the game-tying goal, under 4 to go. Now I'm thinking, get me all the stats on overtime handy. I'm expecting this game to go to overtime. So that's what I'm thinking right now. What are these two teams' records in overtime? When was the last time they went to overtime? Am I going to say all this stuff on air? I don't know. It depends on how the game lays itself out and if we even get to overtime. But that's what I'm thinking right now. And that's immediately where my mind went when that goal was scored. I was like, okay, well, the stream's going to go a little bit longer because, like I said, I'm not turning it off in overtime tonight like I did for the Four Nations game. At least we know that this game is going to come to an end thanks to the shootout one way or the other. No more of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and Charlotte Checkers games that are going into 6 overtimes.
Roman stuck with it, kept that puck on his stick, and was able to lift it up over Drieger's left leg.
Yeah, quick review. Ashan was going to spend the season down in the ECHL with Savannah. He went to camp with the Panthers and ended up in Charlotte camp, and now this one set in front. Little backhand
All right, so it's not going to be Leonard with the game winner. It's going to have to be somebody else. Who's going to step up?
To an AHL deal and now having a career season. Roman Ashad is a really underrated, important part of this team in my view as this plays offside.
Always provide energy, whether it's him topping and yapping or getting in on the forward check at his speed, or this year scoring goals as well. He's such a useful piece to the forward group for the Monsters.
He's back out there now with the count in the toe as the top line hits the bench. 2:53 left in the third and tie game at 1-1. Off the face-off, sent across to Kanosko. Monsters playing like a different group after that equalizer. This long shot glove by Drieger. Ozo face-off coming out.
It's going to be a Skoog, Michigan. Boy, that is quite the prediction there, Jacob. Oh my! I know he's kind of like queued it up. He's gotten pretty close, but ooh, I don't know. And you did call it. You did say you didn't like the vibes, and here I am. You know, you're saying you don't like the vibes. I'm saying, well, this power play is going to definitely help you. You're going to kill this off. You're going to, dwindle the time down, and sure enough, they don't. That's a bummer. It's a bummer. Anne-Marie cussed, and her dog got up and left the room. My dogs know better than to stay in the room when I'm watching any kind of sports. Should have seen me on the Super Bowl. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, for those of you who don't know. So it was certainly a moment.
Yeah, nothing there. Like here says, Jets able to snare that one with the glove and calmly, no rebound.
Jet Greaves has played well. Checkers have tested him. You know, it's been a lot of long-range shots like we just saw there from Kierstead that, were kind of straight on, unobstructed, but there has been a lot of down low stuffing attempts and things like that Greaves has really played well in this game.
Smith way offside with Pugliarvi at the top of the circles at the time of that entry. 2:05 to go in this third period. Wash should come outside the Cleveland zone.
Yeah, we got a full bench of linesmen on that one. Call that one.
Gabriel makes another draw. Another underrated part of his game. Back for Skolzel. Off the glass. Pushed down was Pearson. This one tracks deep into the Charlotte end. Chris Colo, chased by Gambrell, gets it loose to Jesse Pugliarvi. Slides out to the red line. His pass broken up by Pearson. Pearson now spins north. Grimaldi stays on side. Pearson upended in the slot. Easy penalty call. And now there will
Not great. Now the Checkers got to go on the kill.
They're not calling it against the Checkers, I don't think. They're going to call.
No, they're absolutely calling it against Charlotte. No, they didn't have possession.
Going on the ice there, but now with a minute 36 left in this third period, the Monsters are going to the power plays. Pearson tries to cut through the
All right.
ice.
How hilarious would it be if the Checkers get shorthanded goal number 14 to win the game here in regulation? That would be awesome. I would truly, truly enjoy that. Two on one, baby. Come on.
2-on-1 here for the Checkers. Giles, right circle, and couldn't get a shot on net. Rolls away, but a penalty coming, and it's against Cleveland. And so we'll go 4-on-4.
All right, penalty coming.
As Grimaldi makes contact to the box, picks Wolanski for slashing. Another one of those penalties you don't mind taking, given the fact that Giles was right in a position to shoot.
Yeah, it was a bouncing pass across the blue line. Wolanski couldn't control and said.
So we're going 4-on-4, which honestly, I like the Checkers' chances there. Open ice is always a good thing for this Charlotte team. When you talk about guys like Lockwood, who's on the screen right now, Sordiff, who's also now on the screen, Mike Benning, Chris Colo, all these speedsters. It plays well for the Charlotte Checkers.
Situation carries, of course, into overtime if we get to that point. Out of the draw goes Del Bel Blues. Grimaldi's going to take it instead. One back. Kirstead shot. Saved by Graves the glove.
Kierstead might have had Bjornfoot. I think it might have been a better idea if Kierstead kept that puck coming to the near side for Bjornfoot to take the shot. But again, this goes back to Anne Marie's question earlier in the game. There's no such thing as a bad shot, especially one that's on goal.
Hangs on to the puck, just delays, then hands off to Hunt. It's a room out there for the skilled guys on 4-on-4. Here's Del Bel Blues. Gives it to Hunt. Hunt into the ozone, fires off the rush.
Just to let y'all know, we're gonna play 4-on-4 until the Checkers penalty is over, which I guess is gonna be into overtime if we get there. And the Checkers are only gonna have a couple of seconds of power play time. But to change how we start overtime, we're gonna start 4-on-3, and then we'll go to 4-on-4, and then the first stoppage will go down to 3-on-3.
Hits the offensive blue line. Rolls away, left corner of the Cleveland zone. Center, but Del Bel Blues intercepts. Moved out the left side, 20 seconds remain in regulation. He'll hand off to Bowie. Bowie to his left for Hunt. 15 seconds left. Back across, this is Brindley. Brindley with speed, racing ahead. Mishandled it. Outside the blue line, taken away by the Checkers. 7 seconds left. Asplund gets it loose. Chris Colo. Back to Asplund in the corner. 2 seconds left, and that's it.
Yep, we're going to extras.
And regulation insufficient. Tell me if you've heard this before, Brad. The Monsters are heading for overtime.
So the Checkers earn at least a point. That's huge because right now they need to get every point they possibly can. Let's see if they can get the extra one and make it a 2-point victory. Let's go ahead and check in. We haven't looked at the AHL out-of-town scoreboard. I know Anne Marie's keeping us posted on that 3-3 game with the Savannah Ghost Pirates. But around the rest of the league with some of the things going on here in the American League, let's see, we've got Wilkes-Barre's up on Syracuse 2-0. Hartford and Springfield are tied 3-3. Lehigh Valley has a 3-1 lead over Bridgeport. They have about 4 minutes left to go there. So, because the Checkers made it in overtime, even if Lehigh Valley does get this win, we will not have a tie for 4th place. The Checkers will be at minimum 1 point ahead of Lehigh Valley. They're going to creep within 1 point of Providence as of right now. If they can get the victory here, they will tie Providence. And it looks like Wilkes-Barre-Scranton, they're on their way to a 2-0 shutout win over Syracuse. If that victory holds up, Wilkes-Barre-Scranton is going to settle into that number 2 spot all by themselves.
An overtime loss to Belleville on the 24th, and the game prior to that, a shootout loss, both by 2-1 final scores. So Cleveland.
I don't think either of the games previously this season went to overtime between these two squads. They did not. Last time the Checkers went to overtime was against Hartford. It was that big overtime winner from Kyle Crystal. It was the game where Charlotte fell down in the first period 2-0. Mike Benning got the 2 goals. Then Leonard tied it with 29 seconds and some change left to go. Remember, they had the 6-on-4 power play in the game, and they tied it. And then Chris Colo got the win a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the overtime. That was the last time the Checkers were in overtime. Their last 2 games in overtime were both wins. Mike Benning had the game winner against Milwaukee back on the 25th. So let's see what happens here. We're playing 3-on-3 for right now. Then we're going to play 4-on-3 for however long it takes to get a whistle.
To his offensive zone, picks up speed behind the net. Northwood makes a move for the slot. Slid back out for Asplund. Center lane. Asplund moves to the left circle on his forehand. Turns away from Gambrell. Gets it back to Tobias Bjornfeld. Center point. Slides it for Leonard. Leonard now. Fires.
Ooh, Leonard. Oh, I thought he had it.
Is almost over for Fix-Wolansky across. It's Leonard. Leonard now high slot looking for a seam. Fires. Missed the net again.
Really liking the vibes here.
It's tossed around, and waiting in center is Fix-Wolansky. Pass behind him. He stays
Not liking these vibes.
left circle. Fix-Wolansky tucks towards the net. It comes off. Skoog forced Fix-Wolansky to a sharp angle and the puck to the corner.
Good play there by Wilmer Skoog. He knew Fix-Wolansky. Fix-Wolansky's not the biggest guy. I think he's listed at like 5'10". I don't think he actually is 5'10". And Skoog knew that he could be more physical and just push him to the outside and not allow a quality shot.
Turning north now, slides it back for Sordiff. Sordiff tracking ahead. Into the Cleveland zone.
Oh, great pass, sort of.
Puck rolls to the right corner. Here's Bowie. Trying to connect with Grimaldi, waiting for a feed. Then Sordiff shoved by Knosco behind the Cleveland cage. Gets it loose to Kierstead.
Kierstead.
Turn fire. That one sharply wide. Onto the stick of Grimaldi. Remember, possession is really what you need to have in 3-on-3s. So Monsters don't like the look. They'll turn back to their own zone here. Long pass ahead. Delbel Beluza. That one come off the stick of Grimaldi.
It's 4-on-4 here until we get a whistle. Then we go back to 3-on-3.
Regroups. He's got Carrick to his left, but instead skates behind the net. 2 minutes gone. 3 minutes left. In overtime. Chris Colo at center.
Think we're going to a shootout? Let me know.
In the corner. Shoved by Hunts. He's in control. Puljujärvi out high for Bjornfot.
Looks like Savannah's down a goal.
He'll shoot. Block save by
No, tied up. Thank you, Anne-Marie. 4-4. Ray asks, who don't we want to play in the first round? I'll tell you something. We don't want to play anyone in the first round. We want number 1 or we want number 2 to get that bye. But the team that I'm probably scared about the most is Wilkes-Barre. But I don't know that the Checkers would end up playing them in the first round anyway, because I think Charlotte and Wilkes-Barre are going to be too close. It's hard to say about Providence because we haven't seen them a lot. I personally haven't seen them. We haven't had them here in Charlotte yet this year. So it's hard to say about them. I would not like to see Hartford in the first round if they make it in, but I don't know if they will. I think Lehigh Valley plays us tough.
Ahead. We're halfway through overtime. Hands off for Bennett. Bennett weaving below the goal line. Uses the kick plate to beat the left point. That's Leonard. Moves to his right. He's got Charlotte's only goal. Leonard now waits and fires. Right pad save for Graves. Threw his leg at it. That was an underrated stop.
I think the Checkers, there's an opportunity here with what Jack Greaves is doing and what he's leaving there. Big rebounds. Big rebounds. And I know it's harder to control a rebound in overtime because there's more open ice. So the odds that a guy is right on top of where the puck goes is obviously less. But I think that's an area of exploitation here.
Circling, turns and tries to fire. Puck rolled away. Got a whip on the shot.
So many times right now with the Monsters, it's just not staying on their stick when they needed to.
Benning stretches things out to
90 seconds.
Puck bounces into the air on the sweep check.
Sort of strong on that puck. All right. Good. Checkers are going to control, get it back into their own end, and start the rush again.
Turning below Sordiff, all the way behind his own net with 1:15 left in overtime. Is Bjornfot forward to the blue line, leaves it for Sordiff. Lockwood's out there too for Charlotte. Sordiff across the line, feeds
Lockwood?
Right circle in front to Sordiff, poked away by Greaves. Now 1 minute remains in overtime.
Sordiff, he's free. Oh!
Monsters got quickly able to feed it to Fix-Wolansky. In onside, same spot, fires, and this one wide left. Off the glass, comes back to center. Ashan racing to grab it inside his own blue line. 40 seconds left in OT. Ashan in the O-zone.
This has been a great overtime. This is one of those overtimes where you wish it was 10 minutes.
Gambrell hands back to Ashan. 30 seconds to go. Feeds Spolzel in the slot. Spolzel right circle. Spolzel behind the net. On his backhand, boards off the opposition. Carries all the way around, taking a full lap of the zone. 20 seconds to go. Feeds the right wall. This one carried by Gambrell. Handed off to Ashan. Great spinning move. Has some room. Did he draw a penalty? No. No call when the puck bounces.
That should have been a penalty, and it might not matter because the Checkers may not ever get possession.
Just 5 seconds to go as this one forced up the wall for Sordiff, but the Checkers don't have time. As the horn sounds.
All right, we're headed to the shootout.
And we have a shootout.
Oh, I'd love to see Jesse Puljujärvi get the chance here.
Great opportunity there for Romo Sean. He cut back and went to the net. He thought he called down as he was going towards it.
Let's start here on the replay with the save by Greaves here. It's a great job to hang in there, Brad, get that toe on
All right, so who are you going to have? Leonard will definitely shoot. I can see them going with Chris Colo. Sort of could possibly get the chance. Asplin may get the chance. I would like to think Puljujarvi gets the chance.
The first period is a penalty period.
Taking away a scoring opportunity right there.
So the way the shootout works, Munsters, by the way, in the shootout 2 and 5, the Checkers 2 and 2. Team swap ends again. So Briggs in net to our left. Monster shooters will attack from left to right, and Checker shooters from right to left. A three-round shot that will go beyond the bounds of those 3 rounds if it needs to.
Trey Fix-Wolansky he's got some good moves.
Trey Fix-Wolansky, they call him the franchise out of Edmonton, Alberta. Has the puck center top of the first round, hits the blue line, top of the circles, waiting back in, scores!
Pulled Drigger out of position and went with the backhand.
Rocket Arena ablaze, the Monsters lead the shootout.
Trey switches it up. He comes in from the right side this time and goes to the backhand to get it over the right pad. Drinker.
So trying to equalize the bottom of the first round, it's sort of attacking right
All right, so sort of. See if he can answer. You always want to counter immediately, right?
the zone. Reed's watching, sort of to the backhand, and it's wide.
Oh.
It's a 1-0 lead in the shootout as we hit the top of the second.
Great patience by Jet there. Not biting on any of these.
Yeah, I'm not.
Great job with the blocker.
Here's Luke at Del Bell Blues. What a season he's had at both this and the NHL level. Little false start there on
The way that Jack Reeves has been playing in this game, you're going to have to really solve him, and you're going to need Drieger to stand up big on the other side. See if you can keep him in it. Okay, good stop there. Not really sure what was going on there with Del Bell Blues. That seemed rather... I understand going slow and trying to pull your guy, and let's see if Leonard can even this up. That changes things big time. All right, come on, Driegs. This is it, man. Need you to be big here.
He always wins in practice. That's what Trent Vogelhuber says, and here he is, a chance to win the game. The game on his stick. Butler swings wide left. Cuts back, high slot, waiting, firing, he scores!
That's game over.
It was the Butler in the third round with the dagger, and the Monsters win it in a shootout by a final of 2-1.
Oh, that's a tough break. Definitely a tough break. Guys played really well. You know, again, 45 shots on goal. I mean, what can you ask? Greaves, he played well. He played really well in this one. That's a tough loss. That's a tough loss, but I think you got to be happy about it, right? Like, I don't think you can be upset with your performance in this one. Checkers are in a point, so that kind of keeps them moving forward and moving in the right direction. So that's a heartbreaker. That's a heartbreaker. Guys, thanks again so much for joining me here tonight. This is a lot of fun. I'm going to try to do this again sometime soon. I'm not sure when exactly that'll be, but I'll throw it up on social media. So, you know, if you got anybody out there who you think might be interested, if it's on Facebook, make sure they friend me, follow me on Twitter, add me on YouTube, all that good stuff. Also, you know, make sure you add me on TikTok too. I've been trying to grow my TikTok followers. So if y'all are TikTok people, find me on TikTok, TJ Shalot. It's pretty easy to find me there. Once I can get over 1,000 followers, then I can go live on there too and bring in some more folks that maybe don't know everything about the Charlotte Checkers. So give me a follow there and do all that stuff. And more importantly, next time I talk to y'all, we're going to be back at the Coliseum on Tuesday night against Springfield. So if you see me walking around the Coliseum, make sure, pull me aside, say hello. I'd love to chat with y'all. Thanks again for coming out. This has been a lot of fun for me. I'm going to do this again sometime soon. We'll keep you posted on when that might be. So everybody for tuning in.